All right, good afternoon, everyone. We have a long agenda today, and we're starting at an unusual time for us, but because of the length of the agenda, we thought it was appropriate to begin earlier so we can get through a very, very busy agenda. We have both a Tatum Ranch Community Facilities District Board meeting to be had, as well as a formal meeting of the Phoenix City Council. We'll start today's proceedings the way we do all of our proceedings, with an invocation. Our invocation today will be provided by Pastor Javier Olivares from Crossroads United Methodist Church. If you can, please stand for the invocation.
Would you bow your heads, please, as we pray? Loving and just God, we pause to give you thanks for the signs of love and care through the air we breathe, the minuscule drops of water in certain areas of our city, the early sun rays warming the soil, the sidewalks and the streets we walk. We give you thanks for that kiss from a loved one, that hug from our child, that word of encouragement from a friend. Above all, we give you thanks for the opportunity of serving the people of our city. In light of recent events, we grieve with those suffering from the acts of racism. We walk with those who have endured anti-immigrant remarks of the powerful. O merciful one, we pray that you may raise from the ashes of North Carolina a generation that will embrace the other, regardless of who they are. And we pray that we can be part of that generation. Help us to see the humanity and dignity of those who disagree with us, and to treat all persons with the reverence your creation deserves. And finally, O God, renew us with the strength of your presence and the joy of helping to build a community worthy of the human person. We ask this as your sons and daughters, confident in your goodness and love. Amen.
Our Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Councilman Michael Nowakowski.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So I mentioned we have two board meetings we have to take care of business on today, the Tatum Ranch Community Facilities District Board, as well as the formal meeting of the Phoenix City Council. But it should be known that today's meeting is happening at a time when our hearts are very, very heavy. This community lost a very good man and a very good friend on Saturday when Michael Curley passed away unexpectedly. Michael was someone that worked very, very closely with all members of this city council and past mayors and city council for over 30 years. He worked very closely with members of this community, particularly on important issues of land use and development as we built this city. He worked very closely with the professional city staff here at the city of Phoenix. And I can say that in my time in public life, I didn't know anyone that didn't love working with Michael Curley. You almost got excited when you had a zoning case involving him, no matter how difficult that case may be. We knew that he was going to reach out, bring disparate parties together, use his sense of humor and disarming style, and ultimately get a positive resolution that worked for the community and the city. And in retrospect, would look at those cases and say the right thing was done. He was a very, very good man who cared about this community. And it's fair to say, I think, for all of us on this dais, we loved Mike Curley. And he had important pieces of business that were on this very agenda today that he was working on at the time of his untimely passing. He leaves a tremendous legacy within this city. So many wonderful projects were able to be successfully gotten through this council with the support of this community because of his personal style and attitude of making sure that everybody got a win when he worked on a case. And again, did so with a unique style and panache that we will miss tremendously. He also was a supporter of education, and particularly Brophy College Preparatory. And I know the Brophy community will greatly miss Michael Curley, because not only did he raise a lot of money for Brophy, but he put his time and energy, his personal time, into supporting that school. So I know his longtime partner over 30 years, Steve Earle, is here representing Michael, because he needs his cases to move forward, an important business of the city to move forward. Please know that our condolences are with you, your law firm, Nancy, and Michael's children, and that we are here to support you in any way possible during this difficult time. We are a family here at the city, and the people that do business before this body, particularly the way they do it with the class and ethics of Michael Curley, they're part of this family, and Michael will be greatly, greatly missed. So I would just ask that we have a moment of silence in honor of our friend, Michael Curley. All right, thanks everyone for doing that. And please note, if you knew Michael, and almost everyone in this room did, there will be a celebration of life Tuesday at 6:30 at Brophy Chapel, is my understanding, as a location. And I think the community will be invited. I'm guessing it's going to be a turnaway crowd, because he was such a good friend to everyone. Our next piece of business is the Tatum Ranch Facilities District Board. So I will call the Tatum Ranch Community Facilities District Board to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Board Member DeCiccio.
Here.
Board Member Gallego.
Here.
Board Member Gates.
Here.
Board Member Nowakowski.
Here.
Board Member Pastor.
Here.
Board Member Waring. Board Member Williams.
Here.
Vice Chair Valenzuela. Here. Chairman Stanton.
Here. The next item is action on the minutes of our previous meeting from June 3rd, 2015. Do I have a motion on the minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes from June 3rd, special meeting of the Board of Directors.
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Next item is a public hearing on the proposed budget for fiscal year 2015-16 for the Tatum Ranch Community Facilities District. I will now open the public hearing. Are there any cards on item number 4? There are no cards. I'm now turning to members of the public. Is anyone here from the public wishing to provide testimony on the proposed 2015-16 Tatum Ranch Community Facilities District budget? Going once, going twice. The public hearing is now closed. Item number 5 is a motion on the proposed budget for fiscal year 15-16. Vice Mayor, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve Resolution D-56, which adopts and approves the final district budget for fiscal year 2015-16 and orders the levy and collection of ad valorem taxes. Roll call vote.
Second.
We have a motion.
Taxes, sorry.
We have a second. Roll call. Roll call.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Stanton.
Yes, so the resolution passes on an 8-1 vote. At the last meeting of the Tatum Ranch Community Facilities District, I apparently gave inaccurate information and thought that was going to be the last meeting of the, but the city manager assures me that this is the final meeting forever and ever and ever of the Tatum Ranch Community Facilities District.
Mayor, that is correct. This is the final payment on the bonds, and once this payment is made, the reasons for the meeting are over. So this is the last.
With that, this meeting is now adjourned. It's over. Next, we'll move on to the formal meeting of the Phoenix City City Council. For that meeting, would the city clerk please call the roll?
Councilman DeCiccio.
Here.
Councilwoman Gallego.
Here.
Councilman Gates. Here. Councilman Nowakowski.
Here.
Councilwoman Pastor.
Here.
Councilman Waring. Here. Councilwoman Williams.
Here.
Vice Mayor Valenzuela.
Here.
Mayor Stanton.
Here. Ms. Holm, she's not, do we have someone here? Okay. Okay, could somebody though say in Spanish the availability of that? Councilman, please.
Si hay alguien que necesita ayuda, nada más ahí viene, sube su mano y te puedo ayudar.
Thank you very much. Would you introduce yourself for the audience?
Buenas tardes, me llamo Laura Jara y si se necesita ayuda para intérprete, por favor, vengan conmigo. Gracias.
To make it perfectly clear, though he's willing to do so, Michael Nowakowski will not be the interpreter for today's meeting.
I can do it in Polish if you want. Mayor.
Would the city clerk please read the 24-hour paragraph?
The titles of the following ordinance and resolution numbers on the agenda were available to the public at least 24 hours prior to this council meeting and therefore may be read by title or agenda item only. Ordinances number G6040 through G6048, S41798 and S41895 through S41968, and resolutions number 21339 through 21345. Mayor and members of the council, the ordinance titles for items 116.2 and 116.3 on the agenda were not available to the public in the city clerk's office 24 hours prior to this meeting. Therefore, pursuant to the city code, the ordinances must be read in full before the vote on the items.
Thank you very much. Next is approval of previous meeting minutes. Councilwoman Pastor, have you had a chance to review the formal meeting minutes from April 22nd, 2015? And if so, do you have a motion?
I have, and I so move April 22nd, 2015 formal minutes.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item passes unanimously. Councilwoman Williams, have you had a chance to review the policy meeting minutes for May 19th, 2015?
Yes, Mayor, I read them and make the motion to approve them.
Do you have a second?
Second?
We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item passes unanimously. Next is a proposed motion on mayor's board and commission nominations. Do we have a motion on boards and commission nominations?
Motion to approve council members' boards and commissions nominations.
We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Next is a motion on council member boards and commission nominations. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve council members'
Second.
boards and commissions.
We have a motion. Councilwoman Pastor seconded, I believe. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Do we have members of the community here to be sworn in? All right. Well, I will come down to the floor, and to my right, your left, we will swear in citizens who are going to take leadership positions on city boards and commissions.
What's that?
Among the leaders who were just sworn in was Councilwoman Thelda Williams, longtime Chief of Staff Judy Lord. So the joking was about, against our advice. She's back for more. We love it. Thanks for coming back and serving in a leadership capacity now as a private citizen. Next item on the agenda is the proceedings to review and possibly adopt the 2015-16 property tax levy. Vice Mayor?
Mayor, I move that the city council suspend the rules and change the order of business for items 2 and 3 to permit the holding of the public hearing and take action related to the adoption of the 2015-16 property tax levy.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item passes unanimously. So now we suspend the rules and move on to item number 2. Item number 2 is a proposed public hearing on the adoption of the proposed 2015-16 property tax levy. I will now declare the public hearing open. Are there any cards on item number 2? There are no cards. Is any member of the public here to provide testimony to this city council as to the issue of the proposed 2015-16 property tax levy here in the city of Phoenix? Going once, going twice. The public hearing is now closed. The third item on the agenda is the proposed adoption of the 2015-16 property tax levy. Vice Mayor.
Mayor, I move that item 3, being ordinance S-41895, the 2015-16 property tax levy be adopted.
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. I'll now turn to members of the council. Any comments on the proposed item?
Mayor?
Councilman, please.
Mayor, this will be the first time I'll be voting on this property tax levy in I think 4 years, almost 5 years. In every single year we've talked about this. Back in 2009, 2010, the Phoenix City Council set a course in place that was going to be taking monies away from critical infrastructure projects, critical projects. One of the things that the city of Phoenix has always been known for is the fact that we always have very well kept up streets. We have great infrastructure in the city of Phoenix. But in 2009, 2010, the crisis was created by the political body and not by anybody else. If you start looking at our roads today and you start seeing them in disrepair, if you start looking at our infrastructure, if you look at the needs for more capital types of projects in the city of Phoenix, they're not there today because of the policy that was put in place back in 2009, 2010. Since 2009, 2010, just to give you an idea of the size of the problem, over $300 million was taken out of capital projects. That does not include the bonding capacity for that $300 million. So you figure it's about $60 million a year was taken out of capital projects that were meant to bond for those projects. Those were voter-approved projects, the ones that the voters said, this is our highest priority. And every year since then, the mayor and council have taken money away from those projects. They've taken away from our future, they've taken away from our critical infrastructure, and they've taken away from what most people would consider great about our city. This is the first year we're actually moving in the right direction. It's basically inconsequential, but it's not taking more monies away, so I'll be voting yes for the first time in quite a few years.
Thank you very much, Councilman. Any other comments by members of this council? Roll call.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, the item passes on a 8-1 vote. Next on our agenda, we'll go back to our regular order, our liquor licenses. Vice Mayor, do we have a motion on liquor licenses?
Motion to approve items 4 through 43, except items 12, 32, and 42.
We have a motion on liquor licenses. We have a second. Are any cards on those items?
We do have a second.
All cards not wishing to speak in favor? Those cards will be noted for the record. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Item number 12 is a liquor license in Councilman Gates' district, A1 Food Store. Councilman, how would you like to proceed? We do have one card representing the applicant in favor of the item.
Actually, Mayor, we would request that this be held off until later in the meeting.
Okay. So we will hold item number 12 till later in the meeting. Mr. Yee, I hope you are able to stay for that period of time. We'll hold your card, obviously, and when you feel it's ready, let me know. Okay. Next item on the agenda is item number 32. Councilwoman Gallego, it's a proposed liquor license for Bentley Projects. We have one card from David Calvary in favor of the proposed item. How would you like to proceed?
I would like to move approval.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. Mr. Calvary, the motion is in your favor. What would you like to say? Up to 2 minutes.
I'll pass my comments, and thank you.
Okay, motion in favor. We have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Give Bentley our best. Next item is item number 42. 42 is recommended for disapproval by our professional staff. It's for a proposed liquor license for the Twisted Peacock. Councilwoman Gallego, we have Detective Westfall here to provide testimony. How would you like to proceed?
So I think staff has been working very hard on this and has reached some changes with the applicant. So I would actually like to hear a report from the police office, the police department, and
You want staff
Our
first,
staff.
then police, or how would you like? How about we do quickly staff and then police, and then we'll see what the motion is, please.
Mayor, members of the council, this request is for an ownership transfer of a Series 6 license from TTP1 LLC to David Noakes for a bar operating as Twisted Peacock. This location was previously licensed for liquor sales and is currently operating with an interim permit. Consideration may be only given to the applicant's personal qualifications and not to the location. Staff had originally recommended disapproval. However, in light of new information from the police department, staff is recommending approval.
All right, thank you. Detective Westfall, did you have testimony on this item? Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Council and Mayor. Wanted to address the fact that we had originally, as the police department, recommended denial on this application due to certain issues. Working diligently with the applicant, Mr. Noakes, we have resolved those issues and would like to recommend approval on this item at this time.
Thank you very much, Detective. Councilman, any questions or testimony? Is there, sir, I have no card from you, but did you provide testimony on this item?
I didn't know I was to provide a card. My name is
That's-
David Noakes, so I'm the person that
You're the applicant?
Pardon me? I'm the applicant, yes, sir.
Okay. Councilwoman, you want to hear testimony from the applicant?
so I was able to be briefed by our police department, and I am comfortable changing the recommendation to move for approval.
So the motion is for approval. Do we have a second?
Second.
It's in your favor. You want to provide testimony?
No, sir.
You're good, all right. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any comments by this council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Congratulations.
Thank you.
We're going to now take a few items out of order that I had requested. Vice Mayor, you want to do a suspension of the rules to take certain items out of order? Is that,
149
so let's do GCU first.
Motion to suspend the rules to change order of business to take the following items out of order, items 73 and 149.
We have a motion. We have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Item 73 is the proposed development agreement with Grand Canyon University. Vice Mayor, do you have a motion on item number 73?
Motion to approve item 73.
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Any comments by members of this council? Roll call.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Noakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, that item passes unanimously. The second item that we're taking out of order is the proposed walkable urban code, item 149. I think the proposed order of business with regard to the walkable urban code is to hold a public hearing. Are we going to take the staff report within the public hearing, or is it outside the public hearing? What's that? Okay, so I'll open the public hearing, have a staff report. Do I need to close the public hearing before a motion then? Okay, okay. So I will now open the public hearing on item number 149, the proposed walkable urban code. That hearing is now open. Before we have any cards on the item, I'll ask Alan Stevenson, our planning director, do you have a short report for this city council as we consider this item?
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. This project is a text amendment to the zoning ordinance to add a section in there for our walkable urban form development. It's an outgrowth of our Reinvent Phoenix project, which, as you all know, is a $2.9 million grant that the city received from HUD to do transit district planning around all of our station areas. Up on the screen, you have our 5 transit district plans that were approved over the last month by the city council. This next slide shows the areas where these policy plans apply, all the way up in the north in District 5 within the pink area as our Solano, then our Uptown and Midtown districts going down Central Avenue, and then our Gateway East and East Lake Garfield areas as you head east of downtown. This overall code is intended to replace our TOD1 and TOD2 zoning in the future, but that will really take place in subsequent discussions we have with property owners and neighborhood groups about exactly what all those entitlements will be. Right now, the text before you just puts in development standards that are a form-based code instead of our typical use-based code that most of the city has, except for the downtown area. In terms of public hearings and outreach, it did go to the Central City, Alhambra, and Encanto Village Planning Committees, as well as Camelback East, Design Standards Committee, Planning Commission, and our Neighborhood Housing and Development Subcommittee. It was approved at all those various public hearings. Some changes were made along the way to address concerns that were raised by the community and some of the stakeholders as part of this process. Our next step going forward will be to start work later this summer and fall on the existing zoning analysis, our public outreach with all the property owners and residents throughout the city. And what we do will actually then change the maps for all of the zoning to allow for this development to take place pursuant to our walkable urban code policies. And then we'll begin the mapping process on individual properties along with all of our public outreach. Staff does request city council approval per the NHD subcommittee recommendation. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Stevenson from our team? Okay. And obviously we'll have other chances to ask Mr. Stevenson or people that want to provide testimony any questions from them. So I'll next move to the cards for people that have submitted who want to provide testimony on this item. The first card was submitted in favor of this item by Mr. Virgil Berry. Mr. Berry, did you just provide testimony up to 2 minutes on this item? Please come forward. Thank you for being here. In favor, correct.
Okay. My name is Virgil Berry, 1241 East Washington Street, Phoenix, Arizona. Longtime member of the East Lake Park Neighborhood Association. And we have had probably 6 steering committee meetings, 6 neighborhood association meetings. We've had several, we had 2 meetings at the subcommittee, and we've met about this project over almost 2 years. And I think enough testimony has been heard, and I would like for the city council to go ahead and hear it this evening, because I think that when you get a vote from your neighborhood association of 7-2, subcommittee 4-0, planning commission 7-0, I don't know what other testimony we could hear. And I think I would like the city council to hear that this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Berry, for coming down and testifying. Next speaker is opposed to the proposed item. Our friend and former Vice Mayor of the City of Phoenix, Calvin Good. Mr. Good, you should provide testimony on this item. Good to see you.
As was indicated, I'm Calvin C. Good. I've lived in this area for 60 years. So not only am I a property owner with property there, I also have lived there that length of time. I rise because I'm concerned with what I have seen. And certainly as I look at the subcommittee's recommendations with modifications, and it indicates that they will be bringing it before them, and I'm pleased with that, members of that committee. One of the things that I'm concerned with is that staff was also directed to meet with East Lake community and property owners prior to starting the public hearing process to map the walkable urban code. And I would certainly suggest that they do that to find out what the property owners think about this whole project. Some of the other changes seem to be appropriate. One of the things I would like to see, however, is as we go along, that East Lake Park will be advised. I know I'm vice chair of the East Lake Park Association. The president is not here today, but I do have the secretary here. And we're concerned with periodic reports in terms of what is going on in that area. One of the things I do have some real concern with, and I think we ought to look at it very closely, there is before the city now a building request to go up 100 feet. And there's some others where they've gone through and mapped out properties. In terms of my property, they've come out and said it's going to be 56 feet. And I think we need to look closely. I have been told some time ago that developers were interested in our area from 7th to 18th Street, and that in time they're going to put us all out. Well, I've lived there for 60 years, folks, and I don't want to move. So certainly I think we who live there long should have something to say relative to how our community is developed. A number of the recommendations made by the subcommittee I agree with, as I read through the 1 through 5. But the one in terms of the height, I do have some real concerns about that. And I certainly hope that we will keep tab on that. And let me see if Mr. Brewer, the secretary of the organization, do you have some comments, Mr. Brewer?
Good afternoon, City Council. My name is Charles Brewer. I'm also with the East Lake Park Neighborhood Association, and I am the secretary. I think that the one item that Mr. Good made note to was just about the property owners being notified. Now, East Lake Park did do a partial scan of the neighborhood, but we were unable to get to all of the homeowners who live in that area. As you know, Sidney P. Osborne has 2 federal housing issues there, and we did leave some flyers there, but we had very little participation or response from those areas. The real question that Mr. Good is posing is that if there has been a thorough explanation to the homeowners in the area, and they are in agreement, then he has no problem. But it was felt that that had not occurred, nor had an adequate explanation from the change from the 7-story height to the 100-foot height had not been made to the East Lake Park Neighborhood Association. We all received information on what happened, but there was never an explanation of why it happened. And I think those are the 2 items that Mr. Good makes reference to. The last concern of Mr. Good is that since he's lived there so long, that at the rate of change and progress that's coming through, that it appears that the normal homeowner in that area may be moved out either voluntarily or through the progress. The good side of it is, if you have property there, and you know that's an area that's going to be growing, that the property values will go up. But the idea and the question is, has the neighborhood homeowners really had a thorough explanation of what's coming in the future? Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, any questions for Mr. Good or Mr. Brewer or for staff?
Actually, just have
Councilwoman,
a
please.
question for staff. I think we had similar testimony at the Neighborhood Housing and Development Subcommittee and wanted to make sure that we do a good job with outreach because that really is a value of the city. And so I was wondering if staff could talk about the motion and what additional requirements are in there to make sure everyone is familiar.
Certainly, Mayor, Councilwoman Gallego, at the NHD subcommittee, staff was directed to have a significant outreach with the East Lake Community Association, as well as all of the property owners and residents in that area as we go through the mapping exercise to change people's zoning. In this particular instance, it's really a 2-step process to change someone's zoning entitlements. The first step is to put it in the ordinance, just as a chapter for someone to come in and apply on a specific property. So for example, everyone's familiar with the C2 zoning district. That's in the ordinance today, and what happens when somebody comes in on a rezoning case before you is they have to request council approval to place that zoning on the property, and as part of that, they have to do all the outreach to the neighboring property owners within 600 feet, all the neighborhood associations registered with the city within a mile. Right now, we're not at that stage yet. We're going to get to that stage starting this fall, and that's when we'll do all of that outreach effort. And per your direction, we'll spend additional time with the East Lake Neighborhood Association, making sure that everyone understands, and we'll work with whatever property owners and residents they desire to have us work with as we map it. And that will be how we really officially establish what heights are permitted in that area.
Wonderful, thank you. And when the time comes, Mayor, I have a motion that provides even further clarification about building heights and that this vote today does not grant new height entitlements.
All right, thank you very much, Councilwoman Gallego. Any other, at this point, questions or comments by the council? We have more cards to get through. Vice Mayor, did you have something additional?
I certainly feel we need to keep a closer watch. And thank you, Councilwoman, for your involvement in this. And I do have confidence in you so that they won't just push me out of my community and the community of folks who have been there for many, many years. As you probably know, at one time that was primarily an African-American community. We're also concerned with high rises in terms of building condominiums and so forth, pushing out the lower and the moderate income people. We have a right also to be close to downtown. So again, thank you for your work, and you've indicated this will be an ongoing process, and we will be involved. To date, we have not been really involved. In fact, I have some problems with our present president, but we'll try and work that out some way. But anyway, we need your help. We want to stay there. We want to develop our community, and we've got 11 different churches in that area too. And I'm going to have to do some more legwork in terms of being sure this is the community that we can stay in and not be moved out by those who have make a little profit off of our thing. Thank you so much, Mayor.
Thank you very much,
Appreciate it.
Vice Mayor Good, for your longtime leadership in this community and for coming down and providing this important testimony today. Mr. Will Bruder, did you provide testimony in favor of the proposed walkable urban code, followed by Mr. Larry Lazarus?
I'm Will Bruder. I live in Midtown. I work in Uptown. I am the president of Will Bruder Architects. I'm also a member of the AIA. For the past 2.5, 3 years, more or less the past 25 years, I have sort of hoped this day would come when we really are taking seriously our city as a walkable, livable, totally urban place where people count more than cars. The evolution that I've seen in the past 10 years, past 15 years, along with the cultural institutions, along with the coming of light rail, with the quality of life on the streets, the increase of residential in the downtown and midtown areas has been profound. This walkable urban code gives us the tools as architects, as designers, as developers, as citizens to create this truly unique place that we can occupy into the future and our families can. So I cannot speak strongly enough for this approval. I believe that the actions of fall are very important to not be left behind. I know of people already that are willing to act and ready to act, and we're so excited to bring all of these elements of this form-based code into reality as a built environment for the betterment of our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bruder. Mr. Larry Lazarus is next, and Mr. Bruder, if there are any questions, I'll call you back up when testimony is done, followed by Luis Roman.
For the record, my name is Larry Lazarus. My office is at 420 West Roosevelt in Phoenix. We're talking about a code that implements a policy on the overall on the city of Phoenix. It's very important. People have worked very hard on it. I respect Mr. Good. Worked with him for many, many years. I think that we'll have an opportunity to talk about a particular zoning case as time goes on. That's really not what's involved at this point. East Lake Association has voted 7-2 in support of the walkable urban code and 100 feet in height at Transect District 5, which is right on the light rail, actually between two light rail stations. That's all I'm going to say about a particular piece of property. What I do want to say is this is a code that allows us to facilitate a walkable environment, wean ourselves away from the automobile, facilitate mass transit, and move away from urban sprawl and into true urban development. Obviously, when we do this on a case-by-case basis, we have to measure how that affects the surrounding neighborhood, how it affects the compatibility when there's single-family residences directly adjacent to these intense uses. Will it block significant views? And will the massing create a wall that will not be appropriate? These are design considerations that need to be taken. Remember, even on the map, which is not being passed today, it does say a maximum of 100 feet for that transect district. That doesn't give you 100 feet. You still can only max at that 100 feet. And now you need to justify if this is an appropriate opportunity on a case-by-case basis. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lazarus. Ms. Louise Roman is the next person to provide testimony. And then I have a few cards not wishing to speak, and I'll read those afterwards. Ms. Roman, good to see you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. My name is Louise Roman. I live at 1 East Lexington Avenue, right at the corner of Osborne and Central. So I am a Midtown resident. I had the privilege to serve on the Midtown Steering Committee for reInvent Phoenix, and I urge you today to adopt this code. It signals our intent as a city to make a place of quality, comfort, and vibrancy along our urban core. It invites public and private partners and investors to stitch together the existing and future assets and infrastructure. It favors the human experience over the car, hearkening back to the days of dense and shaded downtown. As you think about your vote today, please imagine yourself walking along Taylor Mall from Central to 3rd Street. This is an example of best practices. This is a place where we want to be, and this is a place where this code will help us go. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Roman. Other people who wanted to indicate their support but not wishing to speak: Sandy Price, Rhonda Bannard, Jim McPherson on behalf of Sustainable Communities Collaborative, CJ Hager, Sylvia Uruta, Ed Bull in favor, and Brian Greathouse in favor. Did anyone else who's present here today wish to provide testimony on item number 149, the proposed walkable urban code for the city of Phoenix? All right, so with that, I'm going to close the public hearing. And now turn it over to Councilman Gallego. Do you have any comments or motion?
I do, thank you. And this one is exciting for me because I had the opportunity to serve on the Central City Village when we started the process and did the plans for the transit-oriented districts, which were approved unanimously. And it was exciting because we have a very diverse community, but on so many values like shade and really urban active street fronts, people came together and we want the same things. Some people wanted that urban environment to make sure students have safe routes to school. Other people wanted changes in standards because they wanted to spur more urban feeling developments, more windows and public safety benefits because you can see how active the streets are. For many different reasons, people wanted this urban walkable feeling. So I am excited that we are moving forward with this, but I do want to recognize the important history of Eastlake Park and make sure we continue to have involvement. And so I have a proposed amendment. I move that we approve the NHD subcommittee recommendation, which includes significant outreach to Eastlake Park, and adopt ordinance G6047 with the following modification to section 1301D to add the following. Bullet point 7, transect building height. A, allowable building height will be determined through outreach with residential and commercial property owners and neighborhood associations. Building height analysis will include consideration of existing zoning entitlements and the transit district policy plan, including recommended numbers of stories.
Second that, Mayor.
So a motion, we have a second. Councilwoman Pastor?
I have a friendly amendment that I want to add. Direction to staff to provide the following information when the annual review of the WU Code is brought back to the City Council Subcommittee. Includes the following information. Number 1, number of times staff used design flexibility and the percent utilized. Rationale, number 2, rationale as to why reduction in requirement was approved by staff. Number 3, how the reduction was documented on the site plan and in the tracking system. Number 4, number of variance applications for the projects. Number 5, types of variances applied for. Number 6, % of the approved variances. Number 7, number of appeals to the Design Review Committee. Number 8, % of Design Review Committee appeals that were approved. Number 9, % of flexibility approved by the Design Review Committee. Number 10, rationale as to why the Design Review Committee approved flexibility. And number 11, to provide an update on outreach to all property owners and residents. My friendly
You can tell Councilwoman Pastor is an educator because she loves data. But I accept friendly amendment.
All right, so thank you very much. So the motion was in favor of staff proposal with the additional stipulations provided by Councilwoman Gallego to make sure we do additional outreach to the neighborhood, particularly East Lake, to address the very, very important issues raised by Vice Mayor Good. Councilwoman Pastor asked for a friendly amendment that would require our staff to come back before the neighborhood subcommittee on an annualized basis. Number 1, to go in detail about the outreach that has been done to the various communities impacted by the WUCO, including especially East Lake Park, again, to address the important issues raised by Vice Mayor Good, as well as to have staff explain any variances from the code that they have granted administratively, why they did so, to essentially explain to this council why this vote that's taken today, any variances from that or changes from that, how that was approved administratively. I think it's very, very important that we provide that information to not only the subcommittee, but to this full council as well. And I think those are very good amendments. So we have a motion in favor with amendments, a friendly amendment, and then accepted by the maker of the motion. We have a second. Are there any comments by members of this council relative to the walkable urban code?
Mayor?
Say that. Councilman DeCiccio, please.
Yeah, and I appreciate all the amendments that were put onto it, but I'm going to be voting against this now. I thought it was fine the way it was before. The reason I'm going to be voting against it, Mayor, is that when you put too many restrictions on, and I get the idea of trying to figure out why this is occurring, but you've got to allow some flexibility with staff. You have to do that with projects. And by making all these requirements on staff, you're basically telling them not to do this. I like the idea of having the flexibility in there. You need to do that, especially in the downtown or inner core. You've got projects from all other cities as well. When you have an inner core, you have all these special needs because they were done many, many years ago. And by putting these requirements on staff, you're basically telling them, because staff is risk averse, they don't want to take risks because that's just not our nature. It's not the nature of the city of Phoenix to take those kinds of risks. So you're basically telling them not to do this, and it basically puts the kibosh on some of the businesses that are going to be moving forward. So I like the plan. I like what we were doing before, but these extra requirements I think are going to become so much more of a burden. It's basically a message to staff that says, no, don't do this, because it's going to be really hard for them to use subjectivity.
Okay, thank you very much.
Which you want them to do. You want them to be subjective on some of these projects. You have to have that flexibility in there.
All right, thank you very much, Councilman. Any additional comments by members of this council? Councilwoman Williams, please.
I question to Alan, do you feel that really interferes with your flexibility?
Williams, no, I do not. I think the additional language provides really a good way for a checks and balances system to work, wherein staff has the ability to quickly work with a developer within that 20% flexibility window so that we can make projects move forward as quick as possible, and then at the same time provides a reporting mechanism so that the public can see exactly what's happening with that, and we can learn from whatever changes are being requested and made so that we can come back and look at how we would update the walkable urban code to address it so that we weren't having so many of those things, so we could make it quicker and easier to go through.
Thank you.
Any additional questions or comments by members of the council? Councilwoman Pastor.
I respectfully disagree with Councilman DeCiccio in the sense that this was discussed in our subcommittee. It is just adding now details to pieces of what was discussed in the subcommittee, and it's providing us data. And to be quite frank, it's being transparent not only to the developer and the community, but it's transparency across the board of demonstrating what we're doing. So.
All right, thank you very much, Councilwoman Pastor. Any other additional comments? Again, I thought it was stated well by Ms. Roman and Mr. Bruder in particular about what an exciting time this is for the City Council, that we make this important policy direction, that the walkability of the city is as important as almost any other policy consideration. And now we're going to have a planning process, and later on a code that makes that as high a priority as anything else. And I'll certainly be supporting the underlying motion and the friendly amendment. I do believe that asking our professional staff to report more regularly to this body, to the City Council, as to the reasons why they took certain steps has been a request made by many members of the City Council over a variety of issues, and I think very compellingly so. And I think what Councilwoman Pastor is trying to accomplish by the amendment is to make sure that this council better understand the rationale for the recommendations made by our professional city staff, and the more we can facilitate that flow of information, the better off we're going to be as a city.
Mayor?
Councilman Cecil, of course.
Yeah, I just think I feel I have to respond to that because it's not about the transparency. It's about putting more and more requirements on staff and putting requirements on the business owners. When you start doing that, and I've started seeing this happen throughout the city of Phoenix just recently in the last 2 years here, we're starting to take a very anti-business approach. And this is just one more step in there. If you look at the flexibility standards that we allow in other projects, it's a lot higher than the one that's being proposed today. So by doing that, you've got an inner core that's growing right now. You've got this central city, and you've got the downtown area that's doing fantastic things. Great things are starting to happen there. Whenever you put these kinds of pressures on the market, they will change. They will move to other areas. You'll still get some projects, but you're not going to get the kind of projects that you should be getting. It's a market-driven model that works. By putting these requirements on, you take that away.
All right, thank you very much. I think it's important to point out that with regard to the friendly amendment, there's no additional requirements placed on the development community or any restrictions on the staff to support it. All it is require an annual report back to the subcommittee to explain what changes were recommended by our professional city staff and try to give their best opportunity to explain why they did so that we as elected officials representing the people's community can better understand the reasons for doing so. So I appreciate the sentiment, Councilman DeCiccio, but as you know, it's not putting any additional restrictions on the staff or development community.
It's not about that, Mayor. It's literally about putting more and more requirements out there that make it difficult for people to start their businesses in the city of Phoenix. We passed a great policy back in 2012 that helped speed things up. We're moving, and the city of Phoenix has been moving in the wrong direction since that. It's had a great policy getting things through the process. All these requirements, when you have a growing economy, an economy that could literally teeter on the edge, you can go one way or the other, always become difficult. It's not about the transparency. I like it. But if you look at the flexibility, it's given more flexibility in other areas than even in the downtown area that you want to prosper.
Okay, Councilman, I appreciate the sentiment. Obviously, you personally have argued very strongly in the past that you want additional information provided by professional city staff to this council in our role as the representatives of the body. So I thought the friendly amendment made by Councilwoman Pastor was in that sentiment about providing additional information to this council so that we could do our jobs better. But I want to make sure it's important, and I think Alan made that point. I want to make sure it's again that with regard to the friendly amendment, that doesn't put any additional restrictions on the development community and/or our professional city staff.
No, but the overall policy does.
Council, I apologize. I was
I didn't hear.
asking our planning director to speak on his own behalf, please.
Mayor Stanton, Councilman DeCiccio, it just requires staff to track and report information, but not anything additional on the private sector.
But let me ask staff, do we have more flexibility in other areas of the city than we do now at Central Core?
So, Mayor, Councilman DeCiccio, it depends on exactly what type of requirement you're talking about. Within some of our design guidelines that are throughout the city at large, yes, there are broader abilities for staff to have discretion in those. There's not a limit of 20%. But in other cases, there are not those types of latitude. For instance, small changes to setbacks require variances, but they wouldn't under this walkable urban code. So overall, it strikes a good balance between giving staff that flexibility to address the very strict development requirements when you're talking about a form-based code, and then also being able to report to the public on those.
Well, Mayor, since Alan supports this strongly, then I'm going to be supporting it as well. I mean, I just think that, and Alan, you don't think that this is going to be a deterrent? If you do, you need to let me know. If you don't, that means, and you strongly support these new requirements, right?
Mayor, Councilman DeCiccio, yes.
Okay, I'm good then.
All right, thank you very much, Councilman. I also appreciate Councilman Gallego's additional amendment as it relates to East Lake Park, because the Vice Mayor has presented some very important information to make sure I think he's looking out to make sure that we balance those interests out, and we need to err on the side of additional outreach, in particular in a historic neighborhood like East Lake, to make sure that as we're moving forward, we strike the right balance to make sure we're moving forward with the full community support. Any other comments by members of the council? Councilman Nowakowski?
Mayor, I want to ask Alan, does this affect District 7 in any way?
Mayor, Councilman Nowakowski, no, it does not. The Walkable Urban Code does not impact District 7 at this time.
Okay.
Any other comments? We have a motion. We have a second. Roll call.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Councilman DeCiccio, I would just want you to know that I would never add any deterrence, and definitely for business and growth happening within our community. It's a yes.
Waring.
No.
Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, so the item passes on an 8-1 vote. We're now going to go back to the regular order of business for the City Council. Is it 43? Is that the next item? 44? 44. I'm sorry, so now we're on ordinances, resolutions, and new business. Mr. City Clerk, are we ready for ordinances, resolutions, and new business on today's agenda?
Yes, Mayor.
All right, Vice Mayor.
Motion to approve items 44 through 122, except items 45, 46CG, 47B, 49, and 86.
Could we exclude 50 as well, Mayor?
Item 50, you said, Councilman?
Yes. Yes, please.
Okay, we'll hold that out too.
I'm sorry. I did skip some items here. Items 49, 50, 53, 58, 62, 71, 116.2, and 116.3. Also noting items 46AK, 53, and 74 as corrected. And items 46BZ, 64, and 69 have been withdrawn. And I just gave you the first times. I'm sorry to do that to everyone on the dais here.
All right, so Councilman DeCiccio asked that item 50B also, and I think that was included. Any other items that any members of this council would like to exclude from the omnibus motion? Okay, we have a proper omnibus motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, I believe the next item is 45, is that correct?
Yes.
Do we have a motion on item number 45?
Motion to approve item 45.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on 45, which is a contract to perform financial audits for the city's record for fiscal year 14-15. Ms. Diane Barker, did you wish to provide testimony on item number 45? Are you here? Oh, Ms. Barker? You're up to 2 minutes on item number 45 contract for financial audits for city records fiscal year 14-15. Good to see you.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Mayor. And Council, Diane Barker in District 7. And I would like to have the go-ahead, Mayor, for 45, 46, and 49. They're interrelated on what I'm speaking on.
You're going to provide testimony on all those items?
Yeah, and
Very much
then at the
appreciated.
end-
Go ahead.
Okay, good. All right, 45 is that we have Grant Thornton, and they're in their 4th year of a competitively procured proposal. We believe, according to this, they've been successful. Their performance has been positive. I would have liked to have seen some things that we have really specifically gotten with having this particular procurement. But what I would like to say is that I want all this transparent. If you look over to the 46 CG, we're giving $34,000 to Mr. Stoops. I had an opportunity to speak with this gentleman, and he told me he had a difficult time getting a public audit, and I believe it was from this firm. Let's, come on. Public information needs to be given and offered. We don't need to make lawsuits around this. Okay, the other thing is that 49 has to do is the solicitations. We're amending. We're going back from, we made a standardized procurement code, which is way past the administrative rule of the City of Phoenix, but now we're going back to a solicitation transparency policy, and they're claiming that maybe it is better. I haven't had the time to get into that, but I would just like to state that in looking, I followed up on the Marsh USA contract, and there was nothing in writing. I got a telephone call, and the response was that it was where I'm going with this, Mayor, get a little more time, is that I don't really feel, I don't take the city time in doing my research. I'm up in the clerk's office quite a bit and read many contracts on this. And I don't believe that that was it was sole source, so I can't say that Marsh was a competitive bid. I am objecting still to that. I got one thing where the city council did approve $152,000 for Marsh, but they said that there was no commissions. All those contracts up in the clerk's office say they get a 5% commission on some of the insurance contracts. So that wasn't delivered to me the day I went to finance. And when I brought up this particular contractor, it was, well, Ms. Barker, we were up here and we gathered a lot of information. I remember talking to you, and all of a sudden I'm thinking, wait a minute, I am losing it. I don't remember that. So I got a little bit upset about that, and I checked through all my email. The city didn't finance have my email address, and I had nothing from them. The bottom line is that I've asked finance, you prove the date and time and materials that were given to me on that, or you reclaim your false allegation, false claim on me, okay? So I want the city to look into that. I want to see if you're giving Grant Thornton 5 years on a competitive contract. How come you're not doing it in the risk management and the liability and all of these workers' comp, all of this insurance that we've had for 11 years with one contractor? Okay, then finally, we're looking at a payout of near $72 million on utilities. I remember last year saying, gee, can't we bring that down if we're really looking to make the city sustainable and find ways we can cut down on our electric bill, and this is gas included, but we're up to near $72 million on this, so we didn't go backward. We can do better, folks. Let's get the city organized and go forward and not put out so many fires and have to pay for lawsuits. So we'll do things, get combined in our departments, and do things more efficiently. Thank you.
Thank you. We gave her a little more time because she wanted to speak on 3 items at once, and we appreciate your willingness to do so. Okay, so we have a motion on, or do we have a motion yet? On 45. We have a motion on 45. Are there any cards on 46, additional cards beyond Ms. Barker? Do we want to add 46 to the Did the motion, that was not, was it asked to be pulled out by this council? Oh, okay, let's just do 45, I apologize. We have a motion 45, we have a second, roll call.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Noakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes. Did we do all of 46 other than 46 CG at this point? Okay, so we need a motion on item 46 CG.
Motion to approve item 46CG.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Do we have any cards on 46 CG?
Just me.
Oh, okay. Any comments by members of this council? Roll call.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Noakowski. Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes. Next item, I believe, is 47B. Do you have a motion on 47B?
Motion to approve 47B.
Second.
We have a motion, we have second. Ms. Barker, our provider testimony. Thank you, Ms. Barker. Any comments by members of this council? Roll call.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Noakowski. Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes. Councilman Gallego, do you have a motion on item number 50?
Yes, item number 50.
I'm sorry. For 49, that's next. I apologize. 49 is next, and the city clerk needs to read the title. My apologies.
Item 49, ordinance G6040, an ordinance amending Chapter 43 of the Phoenix City Code pertaining to procurement code, Article 12, Section 43-36, solicitation transparency.
Do we have a motion on 49?
So moved.
We have a motion. We have a second. Any comments on 49? We have one card. Ms. Greta Rogers, did you provide testimony on item number 49?
Mayor, members of council, and people in attendance, my name is Greta Rogers. I'm speaking on this item because the city, under the direction of James Scarborough, who unfortunately left us recently for a better opportunity, worked over 3 years to put together a procurement code that had teeth and legal foundation in it. But one of the things that hasn't been followed consistently and should, if it isn't in the code, should be restored to the code and practiced without exception. The top 3 bidders should always be listed when a bid is being considered by the council, so that the public knows who bid, what the amounts are bid, and so that the bidders, who often come here during these decisions on their bids, know who bid and how much, and what led to your decision. That is fair, lawful, equitable, and common sense. And also, when you do bids and you put out a flat amount, reference to Marsh, which used to be and was forever and ever, until I don't know how recently, Marsh and McLennan, one of the largest insurance brokerages in the world, and they get a commission on the sale. That isn't unusual in the insurance or in the real estate business. Put in how much you're paying in commission, because that adds to the total, and it's an expenditure that we pay for. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Rogers. Thank you. Actually bring up some very important issues. Mr. City Manager, any thoughts about how we might proceed with her proposed improvements to our procurement disclosure information on our public agenda?
Certainly, Mayor. I think the ideas she brings up are worth considering. Over the years, we've tried to find ways to be more efficient and in what we put into the agenda, but certainly this summer, we're going to do some review on how the agenda is structured anyway, and the idea of putting 2 or 3 top bids in there is a good one, and we'll consider that as we come back next fall.
I thank you very much for that suggestion, Ms. Rogers. Councilwoman?
At one point, they were in here, and I don't know if it's depending on which department is reporting, but I have read at certain points the top 3, the score. I think it's in the transportation area that I read it.
Mayor, Councilman Pastor, it's sort of not defined, which we want to do this summer is to define a more standard procedure, and I think it's worth considering to go with the top 3.
Okay.
One of the critiques of our procurement system was that it was sort of, it depended on each department. They had their own rules, procedures, et cetera, and there was a desire by the community and by the members of the council to modernize our procurement system so that way it is. Now, not every department's created equal. Aviation does contracts in a way that may be unique and different, but in general, we shouldn't have had so many different procedural rules as it related to procurement with different departments. It made a lot more sense in the year 2015 that we modernize our system, and James Scarborough did help us get to this point, and our other staff that now runs procurement has helped to get us to e-procurement and other modernizations to make it better for not only the city, but more importantly for the people trying to do business with the city of Phoenix. I think Ms. Rogers' suggestions are pretty good ones. Other comments?
Mayor?
Councilman, please.
Just real quick, too, Mayor. One, I totally agree with you on this one. The standardization is what we really need to do with the city of Phoenix, especially when it comes to areas of procurement. When business owners are going to be bidding on pencils at the airport, they're going to be bidding on it in our general operations as well, so that there'd be one standardization, one level to where that they know what they're going to be able to do and that they're familiar with. It's going to increase competition. The other part of it, dealing with Ms. Rogers, I thought we had a policy in place, apparently not, dealing with showing the top 3 bidders on all except for maybe some of the RFQs. So I'm hearing that that is not a policy that we've had in place, or is that just something we've seen on just some of the contracts, Ed?
Mr. City Manager?
Mayor, Councilman DeCiccio, it's not been an official policy, and so we will tighten that up and make a more standard template that we use for all of our reporting on the agendas.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councilman. Any other comments by members of this council? So we have a motion, we have a second. Roll call.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Nowakowski. Gates.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela. Mayor Stanton.
Yes, that item passes unanimously. Now we're on item 50, Councilwoman Gallego.
Item number
Oh, I'm sorry. Before we even do that, city clerk needs to read the title. Oh, I'm sorry. I guess we don't if it's a continuance, and I think the councilwoman may ask for a continuance. Councilwoman Gallego.
So item number 50 is recovery of collections and lien costs, and I would like to ask that we take some additional time to look at this. We've gotten some great new information, including as part of the process when we appointed our new municipal court judge, and we selected a judge who had some ideas that I'd like to look into. So I move we continue to the September 23rd meeting, and that will allow us to take a look at this at the subcommittee level as well, if we wish.
I'll second
We
that.
have motion and second. Councilman DeCiccio, did you have comments on 50? The request is for a continuance so that Councilwoman Gallego and others can get more information about the proposed recovery and collection lien costs policy proposal.
No, I think that's fantastic, and I'm glad she did that, Mayor. She's asked several times, and I agree with her on this part, too. One of the things I'd like staff to look at through the summer as they're going through this is who is really being affected by most of these fines. And I brought this up at several other meetings. I really believe that, it's inherently, I have no, it's anecdotal. It's nothing I've got proof of, but I really think that a lot of individuals that are either the working class, the working poor, are the ones that are affected by these piling on of fines and liens. And if you look at it, individuals that usually have higher and better means, they'll pay off some of these bills. But what ends up happening over time is by not paying it, they end up getting one more fine, one more lien, one more penalty put on them. And it, for me at least, deals with what I consider to be part of the Eighth Amendment, where government unreasonably impacts individuals more than what the penalty should be. And I believe that that is something that, maybe we haven't thought of or brought into play, but I'd sure like to have staff look at this. I'd like to have staff look and come back as well as who is being impacted by these fines and what kind of piling on is occurring. I mean, how much interest charges do you have? Eventually you run into a situation where people are just not going to pay it because it's so unreasonable. And not only is it unreasonable for them to think about it that way, but it reaches a point where they, I mean, I think we've run into an unconstitutional situation. So I'd like us to take a look at this. I know they're doing it in other parts of the country right now. And I think it's a great time and a great place for the city of Phoenix to look at these fees, look who's being impacted by it, see if there's a piling on occurring. If there is, we need to find a way to stop that and find a way to bring these fines and fees into place.
All right, thank you very much. The proposed policy would include businesses as well as individuals, and I think the sentiment in which Councilman Gallego was asking, and it sounds like Councilman DeCiccio agrees, and I certainly agree, is before we adopt this public policy, we want to have a better sense of who is likely to be impacted. And I think your instinct is correct, Councilman, that we're going to find that on the individual level, the vast disproportionate impact will be on people living in poverty or the working poor within this community. I think that's exactly the sentiment in which Councilwoman Gallego is asking for the continuance. Councilman Waring.
My only question is, so isn't this about the collection of the fines, not the level of the fines?
I think the proposed policy would be to ask that the cost of collecting would be added to the fine.
I understand. It's just, it seemed like the discussion, I'm not criticizing Sal or anybody, but it seemed like it was broader than what was just in front of us here, which I'm not against continuing it.
And I guess the sales tax portion with the businesses, I think Finance and Efficiency has already reviewed, but I would love it if Public Safety could look at some aspects like the ambulance collections, which I think will disproportionately impact.
And I think what Councilman DeCiccio is bringing up and what many members of this council had brought up during the process of selecting a chief presiding judge was whether or not we're doing enough analysis as to the process of fining people, whether we're doing enough analysis as to what are the impacts on those people's lives, particularly those that live in poverty or the working poor. What's also going around the country that Councilman DeCiccio is obviously well aware of is issues as it relates to bail and our entire bail process and how it results in people that can't afford to get bail being left in the jail system for months or sometimes years on end, and people with means are able to get out. And a lot of people on both sides of the political aisle are taking a look at that and wondering whether that is good for the United States of America. And I think that was the sentiment under which the request for continuance was being made, was to study just to make sure we have a better sense of who's going to be impacted by this policy, and is it going to have too much of a disproportionate impact on people living in poverty in this community. So I think the specific request for continuance was to get at that for this issue, but I think it's part of a larger sentiment of looking at these issues, not only here in Phoenix, but around the country.
Mayor?
I guess I'll say this came up.
Councilman Waring,
if I still have the floor,
you just floor, yep, and then Councilman.
So I guess this came up during our human trafficking subcommittee into some discussions. I think we were still analyzing what made sense in that respect, but this discussion, it seemed like it was a little broader than I thought what this proposal was, which again, it's fine if it's going to be a broader discussion, more comprehensive, that's fantastic. But I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. It sounds like I didn't. It's just, we're getting a little broader than it was originally presented to our subcommittee.
Councilman Williams and then Councilman DeCiccio. Councilman Williams.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Talking to staff about this, I understand that the list goes back decades. There are dead people still on this list. And as part of your review, I understand that's part of a state statute. We cannot remove them. Perhaps it's a good time to do some type of analysis, identify, and maybe propose some legislation, because that's ridiculous. And I would hope in the process of this, we're not sending a collector out when there's no hope, or it's that old. So if you
It's a
would
good
please
point,
include that.
a good issue to study as we take advantage of this continuance. Councilman DeCiccio and then Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor, and I'll make it really quick, too. I got a question of staff, but before, if I could ask staff, I believe that our uncollectibles that we've basically written off just this year alone is about $2.2 million. Now, I know it never leaves our books, but have we done an analysis of what considered to be the uncollectible over a period of time? I mean, how much have we carried forward so far, or does staff know that right now?
Mayor, Councilman DeCiccio, I'll ask our Chief Financial Officer Denise Olson and the Deputy Director for Tax, Sandy Schilling, to answer that question.
And it would be the uncollectible, not the, I believe I think we got close to $1 billion. That's 120 days or late. But what do we consider to be an uncollectible?
All right, please, to the best of your, and the reason why we're asking that, even though this continuance is, these are going to be things that we're going to be asking our professional staff to study and come back to this council before we adopt this public policy. Please, staff.
Mayor, council members, what we consider...
Sit on.
Sorry, didn't push it. What we consider uncollectible, Councilman DeCiccio is correct. We do have millions of dollars that are carried over and continue on to age and age. The problem is that dollar amount also includes bankruptcies. It includes businesses that have gone out of the city, have gone out of business. People have passed away. It also includes, for water, it includes people that have left the state. And if we can't collect on it, it sits there. And that's the way governmental accounting works. Nothing is written off. It's this government and nothing is forgiven.
And how much is that? What's that number that we consider to be into that category?
Mayor, City Council, we'd like to look into that and bring that back when we bring this item in September.
But is the number correct? I don't have that, the paperwork you provided in front of me, but is it $1 billion that's owed 120 days or more, which is 4 months?
I don't believe that's correct, Councilmember DeCiccio.
What is it 300? I can't remember. Do you know what that number is? It's
I
okay.
don't.
I just don't remember it.
We'll get that number, Councilman. It's a fair request, but it's going to be a big number.
Okay.
We just know what that number is.
It's big. And then, and just to be clear, I believe that this does have a disproportionate impact on the poor and the working class. But it has to be, my feeling on this is that you cannot have an unreasonable or disproportionate fine based on the impact of what we consider to be their crime or their penalty. So the piling on can occur not just at the lower levels. I believe it's just anecdotally that it is happening at the lower levels, but it could also happen at higher levels too. So we've got to find a way to, what I believe to do is to fit in our fine policy, our fee policies on what I would consider to be the Eighth Amendment. That's something that gets to the point where it's unreasonable.
Thank you very much. Any final comments? Councilman Nowakowski?
Mayor, I think this is something beyond the Public Safety Subcommittee. I think we should have a work study. I think there's so many different departments and there's so many different
I do have some.
math solutions to this. I mean, you think about what's collectible, what's not collectible. Can we actually have two different lists for those individuals that have passed away that we know we're not going to collect? You still have to have it on your AR, but can we actually have a list of uncollectibles so that in the back of our heads we know that this certain amount is not collectible, but by law we have to keep it on the books? So I'd really like to see maybe a work study so that all my colleagues can actually understand it and get a grasp of this situation.
That's a great idea.
All right, thank you for the suggestion. Councilman Waring, any final comments?
I think that is a good idea, but my recollection from the subcommittee, and now it's been a month or two, so I don't have it all committed memory, but my recollection was we cannot write stuff off, and that we have debts that go back to the beginning of the city, and that's that. Is that basically, you're nodding, so it looks like my analysis of that is correct. And that you are not out there using any of the tools that were talked about in item 50 or anything else to go chase after people who we believe are dead, moved away, businesses that are defunct. You were concentrating on the relatively recent ones where we had some reason to believe they're extant and here and can pay. Is that a fair analysis? That was my summary, I guess, layman's summary of what we talked about in the subcommittee, which
You're
seemed
correct.
reasonable to me.
Mayor, Councilmember Waring, you are absolutely correct. If we know that somebody has passed away, as soon as we get a bankruptcy notice, that account is put into a separate pot. We code it in different systems, so we don't look at that debt anymore. We're looking at the current debt, the people that we can actually have a chance of helping us get our money back.
Yeah, and I know the discussion in the Human Trafficking Subcommittee, both in private meetings with our attorneys and so forth, was if you raise the fine too much, then people can't pay, or they go broke, and so then they don't have a job, or they don't have a car, or they can't get to work, so then they can't pay what they could pay before. And I understand what my colleagues are talking about. It's sort of a circular downward spiral. I would caution, though, that like with human trafficking, these are people who did things that they shouldn't have been doing, and they should have known they shouldn't have been doing them. So I don't think we should take any kind of broad-based, we should cut all fines or anything like that. I'm not saying anybody's suggesting that, but I guess I would urge caution on this particular subject, because sometimes I think in the interest of either trying to collect more money or changing the rules, we don't want to diminish some of the behaviors that are being engaged in. I mean, there's different, obviously, gradations, but it's an interesting discussion. I would certainly say, though, Councilman Nowakowski's right. We should have a more robust discussion about it going forward.
Mayor, members of the council, please understand that the accounts that go to the collection agencies have already gone through a process of letters, and this is in all of our systems, of letters, of notices, potential payment plans, and a lot of opportunity to be able to pay this. So we don't send any kind of person that we think we could get money from to a collection agency. We don't take that lightly.
Yeah, I don't think, and I appreciate that comment. I think that's not really what Councilwoman Gallego, Councilman DeCiccio, or others that are concerned about the issues that we're bringing up. That's not what we're talking about. It's a general issue about as people are going through very, very difficult times. We don't want charging the collection costs to actually add to the uncollectability and therefore the difficulty of them in employment or other things. We want to make sure that we're being smart about these things. And that this is a movement and a discussion that's going on nationally around the country through our judicial process about can we be smarter about these things so that people in poverty don't end up in a much more difficult spot because of the collection process. Councilman Waring, and then we'll move on.
And I guess I'll just say this too. Please remember, if we're spending like the money you're talking about, sending out letters, trying to do it a reasonable way, people are basically refusing to pay and so forth. The rest, is it a fair assessment? The rest of us are footing that bill. The rest of the taxpayers are footing that bill. So if we're fining you because you got arrested with a prostitute and you're not paying the fine, and we've sent letters and so forth, the rest of us are sort of subsidizing your negative behavior. So please keep in mind, those watching at home, we don't want to push people into bankruptcy and so forth, but at the same time, we don't want to basically subsidize that either by helping you not pay, not paying your fine. That's not a reasonable outcome for this either. So I just want to put that out there before we go down a road that maybe I wouldn't be completely comfortable with. So.
Yeah, I think the issue is whether or not we can be smart about judicial policy and not paint with such a broad brush you encapsulate or capture everyone. And I think that's what the councilwoman was asking for additional time, so staff can study whether or not we can be smart about this, so we can collect against those that are collectible, but don't waste our time and actually do more harm than good by collecting against those that are uncollectible, so that we don't end up in a situation where there's even more subsidization going on. Councilman Gallego, I know you made the original motion for continuance.
And I just wanted to reemphasize the point I made originally when asking public safety, particularly to review the fees related to ambulances. So those are fees that are generally paid by people who have not done something wrong. And it is a confusing process. If you are hospitalized, you could easily see a bill from the city of Phoenix related to emergency transport, a bill from a person who performed testing, a bill from the hospital, and a separate bill from the doctor's office. If you are in a health crisis, you could see how you might report your information poorly so that we can't find you as easily. You might not even be able to report any information at all. So I just feel that that is the type of situation, someone who's already facing significant medical bills, that deserves careful scrutiny from the council.
All right, well, with that, so the motion is for a continuance. We have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. We look forward to the report back after the in the fall. And Councilman Nowakowski, you have one less item on your subcommittee agenda. All right, next item on the agenda is item, let's see, 53. We have a motion on 53, holding out the item as it relates to Maricopa Community Colleges.
Motion to approve item 53, holding out Maricopa County Community Colleges portion.
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Any comments? Roll call.
DeCiccio. DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Sorry, yes.
Nowakowski. Pastor.
Yes.
Waring.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, item passes unanimously. Can I get a motion as it relates to the Maricopa Community College item only?
Motion to approve the item related to Maricopa Community Colleges.
Second.
We have a motion, a second, noting that Councilwoman Pastor has a potential conflict and will not be participating in this item. Roll call.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Noakowski. Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, that item passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda, I believe, is item 58. Is that correct?
Yes.
Do you have a motion on item number 58? FEMA funding for dam rehabilitation project in North and Central Phoenix?
Motion to approve item 58.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Are there any cards on that items? Councilman Gates, did you have comments on item 58?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. The monsoon has gotten started a little earlier than normal this year, so very appropriate to be talking about this dam project. This is actually up in the Moon Valley area, and what this project will do is bring this dam was built back in the 70s, and it'll bring it back to a position where it can handle a 100-year flood. We used to think those never came around. Now we know they happen about 2 or 3 times a year, or at least that's been the recent experience. So this is going to be this is a great project for the folks in Moon Valley to keep these floodwaters out of the area. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councilman. Any additional comments by members of the council? Councilwoman Gallego?
Thank you. Thank you to Councilman Gates for working on this project, especially anywhere where there's mountains. We're learning more and more about flood control, and this is actually an exciting meeting for us as a council because we're moving forward with several potential partnerships on flood control projects in several different districts, including Councilman DeCiccio's district as well as District 8 projects that will help District 7. So I am glad that we have stayed vigilant throughout the year and gotten to the point where we can move forward with these potential partnerships, and I hope our partners at FEMA and at Maricopa County Flood Control will be as excited as we are about these projects.
All right, thank you very much. Any additional comments? Roll call.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Noakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, item passes unanimously. Item 62 is next. Vice Mayor?
Motion to approve item 62.
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Are any cards on that item? Councilman Gates, you have comments on item 62, acceptance of deed for 2 vacant parcels between Bell Road, between 7th and 11th Avenues.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. This property is actually owned by the former owner of Turf Paradise, Herb Owens, and he wanted to put a billboard there along Bell Road. We didn't think that that was a particularly good use at that location, so the property owner is actually going to be giving this property to the city of Phoenix, which will add additional land which can be used for recreational purposes. So I want to thank Mr. Owens for working with the city on this project. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. All right, thank you very much, Councilman Gates. And thank you to the generosity of the family for donating that land. Any additional comments by members of this council? Roll call.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Noakowski. Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes. I believe item 71 is next. Is that accurate?
It is.
Can I move forward with item 71, holding out the item relative to the Phoenix Symphony Association and holding out the item as it relates to Phoenix Center for the Arts? Can I get that motion, Vice Mayor?
Motion to approve item 71, holding out the items related to Phoenix Symphony Association portion and the Phoenix Center for the Arts.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Are there any comments by members of this council? Any cards in that item? Roll call.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Noakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes. Can I get a motion on 71, but only the item dealing with the Phoenix Symphony Association?
Motion to approve item 71 as it relates to the Phoenix Symphony Association portion.
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Any cards? Any comments? Noting that Councilman Gates has a potential conflict, will not be participating. Roll call.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Noakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes. Councilman Williams, can I get a motion on the item relative to the Phoenix Center for the Arts?
I would move approval of that item.
You have a second?
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second, noting that Vice Mayor Valenzuela has a potential conflict and will not be participating in this item. Roll call.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Noakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes. Next item on the agenda is 116.2, is that correct? And 116.3, are those separate items? Can we take them together?
I think it's separate, Mayor.
Take 'em
because they
separate?
have to be read.
Okay, so, oh, yeah, that's right, because they were add-ons, they have to be read in their complete, all right, so, 86, I'm sorry. 86 was taken out of order because there was a comment card by Greta Rogers. Can I get a motion on 86?
Motion to approve item 86.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Ms. Rogers, did you provide testimony on item number 86? That concerns the proposed development agreement with Charles Schwab Corporation and Point South Mountain Business Park Associates.
Mayor and council, with your respect and courtesy to me, this may take longer than 2 minutes.
All right, I'll give you a...
It's providential that today, at 11 o'clock, I had a meeting with Jenny Grote of the Street Transportation Department, and I had discussed this particular street with her out of meeting about 2 weeks ago, and we discussed it again today, and I said, what measures does the city of Phoenix have to enforce private street owner obligators to maintain the streets at safe, traversable condition, according to city standards? The answer, in caps, N-O-N-E. Better look at this, guys and gals. This is a serious, serious lack in city policies and code. I traverse this street every time I come here and go home. This was declared private by Gosnell when he developed the point. And the attendant streets around there, which have business, some type of business code. They're mostly office buildings, not manufacturers. The street is absolutely crumbling, and it has been for several years. A month ago, there was a pothole on that street that was at least 24 inches in diameter and over 12 inches deep. And if you'd hit it, you would have called a towing truck to take you to the garage unless you had a high-profile, up-in-the-air truck. This street is not acceptable for us to take with the deterioration, the neglect of it by the private property owners and whatever association they have in the condition it is. They should be forced to put this street into minimal traversable condition before we take it on and the obligation of maintaining it. Get it done correctly. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for your testimony, Ms. Rogers. Did we already have a motion on 86? Do we need a motion? We have a motion on 86. Do we have a second? Are there any comments by members of the City Council? Roll call.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Noakowski. Pastor. Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela. Mayor Stanton.
Yes, that item passes unanimously by this City Council. Next item on the agenda, I believe, is now 116.2. And because it's an add-on, I think our city clerk has to read the whole thing.
Mayor, members of the council, items 116.2 and 116.3 extend existing contracts with Otis and Kone Elevator Companies to provide us ongoing coverage on our citywide elevator and escalator systems. On June 17th, you approved a contract that staff recommended with Schindler for a single citywide contract. But late last week, Schindler raised some issues about their pricing proposal, and we are currently evaluating those issues that they raised. We will talk to the council before we would make any decision to sign an agreement with Schindler and would not plan to increase the price for them. However, in the meantime, the contracts in 116.2 and 116.3 with Otis and Kone for the aviation department provide the city with these services that provide for public safety over the next 11 months. And these are needed regardless of the decision with Schindler. And the city clerk will now read the ordinances.
Mr. City Clerk?
Item 116.2, ordinance S-41969, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to amend contract P-A6840-11 with Otis Elevator Company, and further authorizing the city controller to disperse the necessary funds over the life of the contract. Be it ordained by the Council of the City of Phoenix as follows. Section 1, the city manager or designee is hereby authorized to amend the scope of services for contract P-A6840-11 with Otis Elevator Company to perform all preventative, predictive maintenance, repairs, replacements, and inspection as required, and to negotiate for short-term amendments of scope of services. The contract term is for 11 months and will end on May 31st, 2016. Section 2, that the city controller is authorized to disperse funds in an amount not to exceed $253,000 for purposes of this ordinance.
All right, do we have a motion on item 116 point, I'm sorry? Yeah, I'm sorry, do we have a motion on item 116.2? Or questions by this council? We need a motion on 116.2, correct? We need a motion.
Motion to approve item 116.2.
We have a motion on 116.2. We have a second on item 116.2. Any comments or questions by members of this city council?
I have a question.
Councilman Pastor?
This contract, it's currently, we're just extending it,
Yes, ma'am.
and do we need to extend it for a year?
It's the judgment of our finance department staff that 11 months is the appropriate time for us to be able to get everything done and be ready to move to a new contract if needed.
But my understanding is you're looking into the contract of
Schindler.
Schindler, I wouldn't say Childress, but, and that was an RFP and they were awarded it, and now there's some questions, and so now we're going to extend the current contract that is there, and then is a new RFP going to go out?
That is what we're going to determine in the next 2 weeks, and that's why I said we will come back and talk to the council if the recommendation is to go back for an RFP or if it is to continue with the Schindler contract. Either way, we would talk to you before we'd make any decision on that.
Okay, so if we continue with the Schindler, or we choose to continue with the Schindler contract, what happens to these two extensions?
These two extensions would last until that contract takes effect.
I think it's a very large contract that's
Right.
proposed for Schindler. I think they wanted the appropriate transition time to, it's undecided whether or not staff is, in light of new information, is going to continue with the Schindler contract or recommend that we go back and do a new RFP. Either way, even if we were to continue with Schindler, we have to do a transition period with the existing contractor. So that's why this is being recommended.
And it's 11 months.
Yes, ma'am.
11 months, yeah.
All right, that's what I
So whether,
was
you know,
trying
these
to
guys
get
may
to.
be if they do another RFP, these guys may be the successful
Right,
bidder and
right.
it just moves smoothly. It may be a new bidder, it may be Schindler. Staff is going to come back shortly after the break and make that recommendation to this council. Any other comments by members of the council? Roll call.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela. Yes. Mayor Stanton.
Yes. Item number 116.3, do we have a motion? Oh, excuse me, it has to also be read by our city clerk.
Ordinance S 41970, item 116.3. An ordinance authorizing the city manager to amend contracts P-09393-16, P-09400-14, P-09466-16, and P-09343-14, and further authorizing the city controller to disperse the necessary funds over the life of the contract. Be it ordained by the council of the city of Phoenix as follows. Section 1. The city manager or designee is hereby authorized to amend the scope of services for contracts P-09393-16, P-09400-14, P-09466-16, and P-09343-14 to perform all preventative, predictive maintenance, repairs, replacements, and inspection as required, and to negotiate for short-term amendments of scope of services. Section 2, that the city controller is authorized to disperse funds in amount not to exceed $3,025,000 for purposes of this ordinance.
All right, do we have a motion on item 116.3?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any comments by members of the council? Roll call?
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes. Liquor license item number 12 was held from previous meeting. Councilman Gates, is this an appropriate time to move forward on item 12?
Yes,
The floor
thank
is
you,
yours.
Mayor. Thanks. I appreciate your patience on this item. If maybe we could have a brief report from staff.
Mayor, members of the council, this is a request for a new Series 10 license for a convenience store that does not sell gas, doing business as A1 Food Store Number 2. This location is currently licensed for liquor sales as Circle K number 453, owned and operated by Circle K Stores, Inc., and does not have an interim permit. Consideration should be given only to the applicant's personal qualifications. In regards to the location, there's a presumption that the public convenience and best interests of the community were established at the time the location was previously licensed. Staff recommends approval of this liquor license application.
Thank you, Mayor. If we could have the applicant come up for some questions.
Mr. Yee, representing the applicant?
For the record, Harvey Yee.
Mr. Yee, thanks for coming down today. We appreciate it. This location has been operated as a Circle K for many years, and can you tell us what it will be operated as moving forward?
Yes, it will be operated as a convenience store. It's very similar to Circle K. The applicant currently owns a convenience market in a shopping center at 65th Avenue and Bethany, and it also does not sell gas, and it operates on a different license, but it will be operated as a convenience market.
And since the Circle K was first located there, there's been Genesis Church that's moved in right behind it, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And then also the Alice Cooper Solid Rock Foundation has moved in there?
Yes, sir.
And that's a place where teens come to do a variety of activities after school?
That is our understanding, yes.
And we haven't had an opportunity to get your client and representatives of the Genesis Church and Alice Cooper Solid Rock Foundation together to talk about how this business will be operated, have we?
No, we have not.
Okay. And we've talked about that, and you know that I'd like to have that conversation take place. However, this is the last meeting until August 26th. So if we were to deny the request for liquor license today, can you tell me what would likely happen at this location?
A denial would probably result, one, at the location that Circle K would run to the end of its lease, which is August 31. The place would close, would probably be boarded up, and the applicant essentially would be waiting for the liquor board to schedule a hearing on his application.
So we'd likely have a boarded up Circle K at North 32nd and Thunderbird, right?
We would not like that.
Right. So your client is willing to, just make it clear, your client's willing to sit down with me and with representatives of the Genesis Church and Alice Cooper Solid Rock Foundation as soon as possible?
Yes, in fact, I have spoken to a staff person, and I've requested that meetings be set up as soon as possible.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Mayor, based upon the representations made by the applicant and also the fact that we've not yet had the opportunity to meet with Genesis Church and Alice Cooper Solid Rock Foundation, I will make a motion of no recommendation at this time, allowing this item to move forward to the State Liquor Board.
We have a motion for no recommendation. We have a second. Any comments by members of this council? Roll call.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor. Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, that item passes unanimously. The no recommendation passes unanimously. Yeah, to be clear, yeah. And thank you for your willingness to meet with the councilmen and the appropriate community organizations. Next item on the agenda is
123.
we're now on planning and zoning matters. And we, at Councilman Gates' request, we asked that item 150 be held to at least 3 o'clock, but it looks like timing is going to work out okay on that item. So we'll move directly into our planning and zoning agenda, item 123. Vice Mayor.
Excuse me. Motion to approve items 123 through 150, except items 147 through 150. I noted that item 123 is continued to October 14th, 2015.
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Any comments by this council? Roll call.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor. Waring.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes. Next item, Vice Mayor. 147, is that next?
Yeah, 147.
Okay, so on 147, which is 19th Avenue and Happy Valley Road, which is District 1.
Can items 147 and 148 be heard together?
Is this, could it be a single public hearing or have to be separate public hearings? All right. We better
Mayor,
err
members
on
of council,
separate.
It could be the same, it's the exact same parcel, there would just be two separate motions, one for the general plan amendment and then one for the zoning case.
Can we hold the public hearings as a single public hearing? Okay, so we're going to now, this will now be items 147 and 148. I will now open the public hearing on those items. They concern the same parcel. The public hearing is now open. Councilwoman Williams, I do have one card. Obviously, staff is here to provide a report if requested. How would you like to proceed?
Is the card in favor or?
Opposed. One gentleman
Opposed?
is here opposed.
Well, then I'd like to have staff give a brief overview.
Mr. Stevenson?
Mayor, members of council, the request before you is a general plan amendment and a zoning case for a property at the corner of 19th Avenue and Happy Valley Road. This is the rest of the USAA parcel that has been owned up there and developed by USAA Corporation for a number of years. The general plan amendment, which is item number 147, is a request to go from Commerce Park Business Park to mixed-use commercial Commerce Park, residential Commerce Park Business Park, residential 5 to 10, residential 10 to 15 dwelling units per acre, as well as residential 15-plus dwelling units per acre. You see on the slide before you is just the crosshatch designation of those general plan designations. The Village Planning Committee on the General Plan Amendment for Deer Valley voted to approve it 9-0. The Planning Commission voted to approve it by a vote of 5-0 as well. Staff recommends approval per the Planning Commission and adoption of the related resolution. The relating zoning case that goes with this is a request to rezone the property from C2 mid-rise PCD and Commerce Park, General Commerce Park mid-rise PCD, as well as S1 in RE43 to PUD to allow for a mixed-use development that includes single-family, multifamily, and commercial uses. On the map up here shows you the different designation areas in terms of their proposed PUD plan that has that mix of single-family, multifamily, and commercial uses. The Deer Valley Village Planning Committee recommended approval by a vote of 8-1. The Planning Commission also recommended approval with modification of stipulation number 2. Staff does recommend approval per the add-on memo dated June 30th, 2015, and adoption of the related ordinance. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Councilman Williams, do you have any questions for staff? You want to move forward with the card? Mr. Jim
Yeah.
Miglorino is opposed to the item, which should come forward and provide up to 2 minutes of testimony. Thank you for being here.
Mayor Stanton, members of the council, my name is Jim Miglorino. I'm the Associate Superintendent of Fiscal and Business Services for the Deer Valley Unified School District. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today, and I wanted to thank the city for the process that we are involved in whenever a development like this happens. We are in opposition to the stipulation that has been added to this particular application. In fact, I guess you could say that there was some compromise, because I think the applicant and us are in agreement on one thing, that we don't think the stipulation is well written for either of us. But in this particular case, the development is going to add approximately 500 students to our district that we cannot account for. So we were looking for additional time to work with the applicant regarding the stipulation, and unfortunately the applicant was not able to provide the additional time for us. We voiced our opposition back in February when this was first mentioned to us, and even with that much time, we have not been able to come to an agreement. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much for taking the time to come down. Any questions for Mr. Migliorino? I hope I pronounced that correctly.
That's correct.
All right, thank you very much. And there may be questions later, so please stay near the microphone. I don't have any other cards, but is the applicant a representative here? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. For the record, my name is Jason Morris, Withy Morris, 2525 East Arizona Biltmore Circle, on behalf of the applicant, USAA Realco. Thank you. I will be brief. It would be a treat, frankly, to give the council a full overview. Staff has done an excellent job giving a limited overview of what USAA intends to do with the remainder of their campus. What we are discussing today is an approximately 400-acre master plan that surrounds the campus building. This campus building is the heart of USAA's holdings, not only in this area, but in this region. That being said, the development of this campus is not only for the USAA employees, but also for the general public. And because this master plan will constitute the holding in this area, and preferably the best master plan in this region, a lot of thought has gone into the overall land plan. With that in mind, the applicant does have and desires a school location. We've had many meetings with the school district, and we both agree that a school should be an integral part of this development. In fact, have picked out sites for those efforts. What we cannot agree upon, and what I'd point out, that's actually staff's slide, but you can see in staff's slide, there is a school site, an existing elementary school site just north of us. That's the North Terra Canyon School, elementary school. Because this August, Deer Valley will be opening another elementary school north of this area, there will be a shift, and there will actually be capacity in that school adjacent to us. That isn't our concern. Our concern is if we are able to provide a school location for the Deer Valley schools, our first and foremost consideration is that a school be built. That is really the only sticking point right now, and because the Deer Valley District is not in a position to commit to building a school, we can't necessarily agree on the wording of that stipulation. The commitment I will agree to, Mayor and Council, is that we will give some additional time, but more importantly, we will commit to meet with the Deer Valley schools throughout the summer as we resolve this situation to make sure there is an educational component. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Morris. Is anyone else here present from the public wishing to testify on item number 147 or 148, the proposed plan for 19th Avenue and Happy Valley Road abutting the USAA campus. Any other member of the public here for that item? Are any questions by members of the council for any of the individuals that testified, either representing Deer Valley or the applicant? So with that, I will then close the public hearing and turn it over to Councilwoman Williams.
Thank you, Mayor. I have spent time, I even attended the village meeting to review this plan. USAA is a very valued employer in District 1 and in the city of Phoenix. Their campus is large, and they have promised a wonderful development. It's truly a great master plan development. And I have talked to them about the school, and we have come up with a compromise because I know that we need additional time, but I truthfully don't want to hold this project up. I think it is extremely important to the I-17 corridor, the USA campus, and to the community. So I have a motion I would like to make, and I have an additional stipulation or modification that I wanted to make. I want to make the motion to approve the add-on memo dated June 30, 2015, and adopt ordinance G6046 with the following modification to stipulation number 2. I'm changing the reservation for the school from 12 months to 18 months, which gives Deer Valley more time to discuss and come up with a solution, and add, unless evidence is provided by the applicant that a school site has been established within the Norterra PUD. Ellen, do I need to read the formal, a minimum 12-acre school, that portion?
Mayor, Councilwoman Williams, no, I don't believe so. The backup memo had the proposed changes. Unless any of your colleagues want clarification, I think that covers the proposed change.
Okay, and so I'm hoping this is a fair compromise between the Deer Valley School District and USAA, so this can continue on a track to get developed in a very expedited manner. It is going to be a benefit to the community, great homes, and absolutely a community that's well-planned, unusual, but I think absolutely fits that area.
So, Mayor, Councilman Williams, if we could perhaps first take up item 147, which is the general plan amendment.
Oh, I forgot the general plan
And a motion on
amendment.
that, and then we'll move to the zoning case.
Okay, I want to move approval of the general plan amendment, and do we need to adopt any related ordinance on this one?
Related resolution in this case.
Related resolution, then.
All right, we have a motion on the general plan proposed change. Do we have a second? We have a motion, we have a second. Any members of this council would like to have any questions or comments on the proposed motion? Now is the time. No comments or questions? Roll call.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Noakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, that item passes unanimously on the general plan amendment. Now we'll move on to item 148, which is the proposed zoning. Councilman Williams, do you have a motion in that regard?
Do I need to repeat the entire motion?
Mayor, Councilman Williams, yes, I think just for the
Okay.
record, that'd be preferable.
Then I want to make the motion to approve the add-on memo dated June 30, 2015, and adopt ordinance G6046 with the following modification to stipulation number 2. I'm changing the reservation from 12 months to 18 months, and add, unless evidence is provided by the applicant that a school site has been established within the Norterra PUD.
Thank you.
Okay, that's
And
Is that
adopt
appropriate
any-
motion?
And do I need to say adopt resolution? Or,
Mayor, Councilman Williams, you said adopt ordinance G6046.
Okay.
So in this case, it's just an ordinance for a zoning case.
because usually we mess up on that end. Thank you.
All right, we have the motion with the added stipulation by the councilwoman as it relates to education sites on the proposed site. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any comments from members of this council? Councilman Gates, please.
I just want to congratulate Councilwoman Williams for her great work on this project. This is going to be some outstanding development, well-planned for North Phoenix. Although I do have to admit, feeling a little queasy here as a Deer Valley High School grad, but I know that you're going to work out these issues with the Deer Valley School District, and this is going to be best for the community and best for the children who are educated up there in the future. So congratulations.
Excellent comments. Any other comments by members of this council? I too appreciate and have confidence that Councilman Williams will work very, very closely with the school district. She's a huge supporter of not only Deer Valley, but all the schools in her district, and takes these issues raised today very, very seriously, and will try to work in appropriate language. It's a little bit of a rock and a hard place relative to where we are in terms of requiring certain things, and I think her attempt is to really make sure that the interests of all parties are taken into account. I think her stipulation balances those interests very, very well. So I'll be supporting the motion. Any other comments? Roll call.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski. Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, that item passes unanimously. The final item on our agenda is item number 150, a proposed rezoning for 32nd Street and Shea. I think we're maybe just going to take, I think some people are leaving, some people are coming in, and I think our city clerk is organizing the cards on this item. My understanding is that many citizens have donated their time to leaders in the area so that they can speak for longer than the requested 2 minutes. At Councilman Gates' request, we're going to organize this by having a staff presentation, I'm assuming, to start out with. You want a staff presentation? You just want to go right to the cards, up to you. And then, but 15 minutes for each side. I know that the representative of the applicant would like to maybe not utilize all of it, but have the opportunity to have rebuttal time. And I did even offer that to the representatives of who may be opposing the item as well. And we'll try to keep the total time within 15 minutes. I think that's the request. And what both sides have agreed to. So thank you, Councilman Gates, for organizing that regard.
And thank you, Mayor. All that, I agree with all that completely. Just would ask maybe that I have just a moment to speak after staff presentation before we get the cards.
You can speak before, after, or even during if you want to interrupt them. That's perfectly fine. It's your
Not a good idea.
All right. So item number 150 is the item on the table right now. Item number 150, again, is a proposed rezoning at 32nd Street and Shea. I'm now going to open the public hearing. We could have a short, it's up to you. Do you want a short staff report, or do you want to get right to the cards?
Just a short staff.
Mr. Stevenson, you have a short staff report for us today.
Certainly, Mayor, members of council, this is a request to rezone a property at 32nd Street and Shea Boulevard. It's approximately 600 feet north of the northeast corner. The existing zoning is CO, approved C2, C1, C1, and approved C2, as well as CO, to allow for a planned unit development zoning district for multifamily residential development that will increase the residential dwelling units allowed on the parcel. The Paradise Valley Village Planning Committee recommended approval of the item by a vote of 10-3. The Planning Commission also recommended approval by a vote of 5-0. You can see on the slides here the surrounding area. Here's the site in red. You have a mini storage facility to the north, then single-family residential, and then the other sides are commercial, and then you have the 51 freeway over here. On Monday afternoon, the applicant did submit revised site plan architectural renderings that I'll show you in a minute. But prior to showing you those, I wanted to briefly mention that there was a North 32nd Street study that was done and approved by the City Council late last year. As part of the outreach in that process, there were over 9,000 pieces of mail were sent out to property owners within this area here that you see to alert them of the actual, the public meetings we had to discuss the proposed changes, where they were identified, which parcels would change, which areas were stable, and which areas were a little bit of retrofit, as you see on this plan here. The area in green up here is the subject site, and as part of that adopted plan, it does show that as an area for change. The yellow is retrofit, and the red is areas of stability. Here's the proposed revised site plan, and then the renderings will come up just next. As part of the site plan, the applicant proposes to reduce the number of dwelling units down to 135. They're also making some changes to the setbacks related to removing the parking podium and dropping the fifth-story element with that as well. And here's the proposed architectural renderings that go with that. Staff is recommending approval per the addendum that came out yesterday, June 30th, 2015, and adoption of the related ordinance. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right, does that complete the staff presentation?
Yes, sir, Mayor. I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you very much. So that is our staff report on the proposed rezoning. I have a series of cards here, both in favor and opposed.
And Mayor, if I could just say a couple
Please,
words
of course,
before
Councilman.
we go to the cards. Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate, this case is a unique case. There has been a lot of public involvement in it, and I appreciate everyone who has participated in the meetings, both out on North 32nd and here today. We've actually had, there have been 3 meetings with the applicant and the neighbors. There was the Village Planning Committee meeting, the Planning Commission meeting, and then I have also met with both those in favor and those opposed to the project. And I just want to thank everyone who's been involved for the civil tone throughout this process. It really has been a great example of public engagement, and I trust that we'll continue to see that same approach taken by all involved today. So again, thank you for being here, and thank you for taking the time out of your day to be here in early July in Phoenix. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councilman. So again, I'm looking at the time, really. We're going to try to keep track. Mr. Bull, who represents the applicant, is going to speak first. You have a total amount of time of 15 minutes. And again, I know you wanted to reserve some time, so I think we'll try to give you a signal maybe with 3 minutes or so left, assuming you need that much time, so you have time for rebuttal. I do have 2 other additional cards in favor. I'm assuming that they will be then essentially donating their time to you here this evening. Is that accurate? Mr. Ganji and Ms. Buffum? Excuse me, I hope I pronounced that correctly.
Mayor, Council, Ed Bull, 702 East Osborne. In response to your question, no, I would like the opportunity for neighbors and support to speak.
Okay, so you'll, that counts towards your total of 15.
Yes, I understand.
Okay, good.
I understand. I'm sorry, I understand. I would like if you would let me know when I've used 5 minutes, and then I would like to turn it over to neighbor speakers.
You got that? 5 minutes? We need a 5-minute warning after 5 minutes. Not 5 minutes left, but after you've spoken for 5 minutes.
Correct.
Okay, perfect.
And we know that there's some additional support speakers en route. Whether they arrive here in time to speak, I don't know, but I think a list made it to you. Okay? Thank you. Mayor and Council, as you know from staff's presentation and other materials, this site is located between the 32nd Street, the 51 freeway, the back side of the Bashas Shopping Center, and the side of the storage facility. It's located 280-some feet south of the closest residential to the north, and it's located over 500 feet west of the closest residential to the east. Next slide, please. We come here today, as you know, with recommendations for approval from staff, the Village Planning Committee, and the Planning Commission, and we have provided approximately 640 signatures in support from residents in the area and from businesses. Next slide, please. We began this process with a building that, as staff described, was a combination 4- and 5-story building built over the top of a parking podium. We have, next slide please, through a whole series of neighborhood meetings, both large formal neighborhood meetings and hearings in front of the village and the Planning Commission. Next slide please. And a number of additional smaller group neighborhood meetings. We've made a number of compromises and changes along the way. Next slide please. As you may be aware, after we had a staff recommendation for approval and a village committee recommendation for approval, we were asked to do some carve backs of the corners of some buildings. This is modifications we made going into the Planning Commission hearing, carving out the corners of buildings, of the building, also agreeing to a double row of trees along the north property line, and also agreeing to hours of operation, so to speak, for a second floor plaza where our residents could gather. Next slide, please. We came out of the Planning Commission with a recommendation for approval. This is the revised site plan that staff had on the screen a few minutes ago, where on this plan we have eliminated the parking podium. We have thereby eliminated what was the fifth story on the eastern portion of the building. So the building is a four-story building, not five. We reduced the density to maximum 135 dwelling units. We eliminated the second floor pedestrian plazas. You can now see about midpoint along the north side of the building is a ground floor pedestrian patio park gathering area. The hours of operation that we'd already stipulated to apply to that ground floor park as well. We still have the double row of trees along the north property line, double row of trees along 32nd Street, trees surrounding the site, and we also still have the carve-outs of the building and other adjustments that we've made along the way. Next slide, please. This is the collage of 3D perspectives that staff had on the screen a few minutes ago. Hard to see at this scale. Next slide, please. This is a blow-up looking from northwest of the site, looking southeasterly. It's the 32nd Street frontage that's to your right. You see the carve-outs of the buildings. See, it's a four-story building, not five, anywhere along the way. We'd also moved a stair that needs to go to the roof to the back side of the building. We'd done that a long time ago and left it in that backside location. Next slide, please. This is looking from the southwest of the site, looking northeast. Again, it's the 32nd Street frontage. You can see the carve-out of the upper corner of the building. Next slide, please. This is looking from the south side of the building into the pool area, which is carved out. Next slide, please. In addition to these changes, which focused on all the things that I talked about, most significantly involving reduction of building height and reduction of density, there had also been neighbors along the way that had asked us to move the building further to the east in order to widen the setback and the landscape buffer along 32nd Street. This drawing, which is illustrative, next slide please, shows a way that we figured out last night to do that in discussions with some neighbors and their lawyer. It is reflective of requests that other neighbors have made along the way to widen the setback and landscaping along 32nd Street. These little boxes indicate that in order to do that, all we're doing is reducing the width of a landscape buffer along the east property line to 5 feet, from 10 feet to 5 feet, still wide enough to support a row of trees. We're eliminating a landscape island on the easternmost edge of the building. There's still plenty of landscaping in that eastern parking area. And the result is we can move the building 20 feet east. We can increase the setback as measured by staff from 35 feet to 55 feet along 32nd Street, and of course landscape that entire area. Next slide, please. This shows, again, going back to the site plan that was submitted several days ago, where those slight adjustments that we're talking about were just made, resulting in moving the building 20 feet east and increasing the setback and streetscape landscaping along the 32nd Street frontage. Next slide, please. This, again, from the perspective of looking from the northeastern portion area, looking southeast across the site, showing that 32nd Street frontage. There will be additional setback on this perspective, again, pushing the building easterly another 20 feet and adding additional landscape along there. We are not providing any parking. We're not providing any vehicular circulation between the edge of 32nd Street and the east edge of the building. Next slide, please. In conclusion, at least for now, we'd request approval in accordance with staff and the Village Committee and the Planning Commission's recommendations for approval, subject to the stipulations in staff's updated memo, and also subject to adjustments and stipulations that would be in accordance with the letter that was handed to you just a few moments ago, which simply reflects what I was talking about as far as reducing some landscaping in the parking area east of the building in order to move the building east and to increase the landscaping and setback along 32nd Street. That was done in accordance with requests from some neighbors, not just ones we were talking with yesterday and last night, but consistent with some requests by other neighbors along the way. Mayor, if I may, I'd like to step away from the podium and allow some speakers in support to the extent that they've arrived speak, and again, reserve remaining time for rebuttal.
Thank you, Mr. Bull. First off, timekeeper, how much time has been utilized at this point? 8 minutes left. So you went about 7 minutes. So 8 minutes for the members of the community that wish to speak in support of the item. And I know you did want to save some time for possible rebuttal.
3 minutes for
3 minutes reserved. So we'll keep track, and maybe the citizens who are here in favor can limit it to 2 minutes or so. Mr. Ganji, Douglas Ganji, do you wish to provide testimony in favor of the proposed, the proposal, and then followed by Ms. Buffum? Good to see you, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Doug Ganji, and my residence is at 2401 East Turquoise Drive. I also, for the record, own 2 additional properties that are located within the 32nd Street corridor at 17419 North 35th Place and at 3508 East Charleston Drive. I'm a native 85028 resident. I was born there in 1969. So I have been through the glory days of the zip code and have also seen, obviously, what it currently looks like. I've gone through the school district. I was raised through all the elementary and middle. I graduated from Shadow Mountain High School in 1987. Worked at the McDonald's on 32nd Street. I'm sure many of you are familiar with that area. You know, at the time, the commercial sector of that area was probably the most vibrant in the entire city. We had a movie theater, we had banks, we had grocery stores, we had 4 gas stations, vibrant restaurants, all kinds of things that were along that corridor, built to manage all that traffic that came through, because at the time, everything funneled through up the Dreamy Draw, and all the traffic that went through there was shopped at all those stores. My mom was a realtor back then. The property values of our house in 85028 were the same as Camelback. We had friends that lived there, same as Arcadia, same as North Central Phoenix. It was one of the premier zip codes of the city. 51 Freeway obviously came through at the time, and things changed dramatically. You know, you took out basically a lot of homes and you left the commercial. So now you have a situation where you have the traffic that bypassed all the commercial with the commercial that was left there. And obviously, since you had 50,000 cars at one point being serviced by all the commercial, and I think today it's now 18,000, what's left is a significant difference in the commercial structures that are there. The demographics of the area are also declining. It's getting older, it's getting less populated. And unfortunately, we're landlocked, so we can't grow out of this like you can in some other zip codes that are on the edge of the city. So we're stuck like a big cul-de-sac. So we've seen a lot of that deterioration. In fact, I was here in 2007 to speak in support of another building that I think would have helped us that was defeated at the time, and that was a building at 32nd Street in Sherrill. And since that defeated building, we've had pawn shops move in, we've had smoke shop that moved in, we've had a probation office that's moved in, we've had payday loan shops, we've had a lot of things that you don't want to have in your neighborhood. And that cancer has crept in. Our market values today in our zip code now are probably 25% lower than those zip codes that we used to compete against. So how do we change that? The only way to really change that is to basically get rid of some of that commercial that's overbuilt, replace it with some infill development, and change the demographics. And I think View 32 is perfect for that, because you're bringing in a younger crowd, an affluent crowd with these higher-end apartment buildings, and giving the local businesses now something to feed from. I'm also a business owner. I own a company called SingSite, and I'm an entrepreneur. I also am shopping, or have been shopping now for a while, to build a small business to serve the community. And I wanted to serve that community that I live in. So I looked at 32nd and Shea neighborhood, studied the demographics, and looked everything up and down. I'm also a smart business person. Couldn't make the justification. We don't have enough people that live within the area to support that kind of a business. So instead, I've been looking at McCormick Ranch and Scottsdale Ranch, and I'd really much rather focus on my own neighborhood. And if I'm the one that's thinking in the same terms, hey, there's not enough people around us to really support a business model long term, anybody else that's also got a similar business mentality is going to see the same thing as well. I know, with the city, they've been pushing this new revitalization effort, and that is attracting some businesses, but until demographics change, those businesses aren't going to stay around long term. So we need a project like View 32, to help reverse the demographics and to, restore the luster that the 85028 zip code has had, and bring that back again. Again, revitalization is necessary for our zip code. We need to bring our property values back up again, and I understand really the only way to do that is to get rid of that commercial cancer, make us look a lot less like Cave Creek Road, and look a lot like, better parts of the city that we should.
Thank you very much. Thanks for
you very
testimony.
much.
Ms. Buffin, did you wish to provide testimony, noting that we have about, in order, if Mr. Bull wants to keep his 3 minutes of rebuttal, we have about 1 minute of testimony time left. So I apologize, but thank you very much. Thanks for being here. And then also, I note that Mr. Charles Howard is also in favor. We may run out of time for additional testimony. We want to make sure your card is reflected for the record. Ms. Buffin, please.
Thank you, Mayor Stanton and council members, for your time today to consider both sides of the rezoning proposed to redevelop the site. I recognize that you face an important decision for our neighborhood. There is certainly opposition to this redevelopment. However, there's far greater support within the neighborhood. This is a neighborhood that supports each other, both as neighbors and local businesses. It is a place that my husband and I chose last year when we relocated here from the San Francisco Bay Area. We sought a neighborhood that felt safe, a place where we could really enjoy a great quality of life, and we felt that this area offered us that. While one of the biggest detractors in selecting this neighborhood was the North 32nd corridor in the current state of transition. We could see the possibilities here with redevelopment, and so we chose to live here. It's why I've become active in the redevelopment process, because I want to see buildings like this come to change the demographics and continue the community that we're building. The North 32nd community is where you can walk or bike to the mountains or grab a cup of coffee, but it's also a neighborhood where neighbors feel comfortable delivering holiday cookies to your door and gathering for block parties. In keeping it short, I look forward to your approval of the rezoning for the proposed residential development, as I believe it will be a catalyst for the type of redevelopment that will ensure that our neighborhood improvement is not just a possibility, but a reality, and bring back the luster of yesteryear that the North 32nd corridor was known for. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for your testimony. I think that's all the time we have for testimony, assuming Mr. Bull wanted the opportunity for about 3 minutes of rebuttal. So Mr. Howard is in favor of the proposed item. I want to make sure that's reflected for the record. And Mr. Brett Kleinman is not wishing to speak, but wanted to make sure his support for the proposal is reflected for the record. I'll now turn it to the cards for people who are not supportive of the proposal. I have many cards here. Again, I think that there was an agreement in advance to try to keep it 15 minutes. That may be difficult. We're going to try to do the best to guide it. But Ms. Miller, I think you want to speak first, and you have up 4 cards donated to you under the council rules. That gives you up to 8 minutes, but you don't have to use all 8 minutes to give other citizens who have a similar feeling to you the opportunity to testify. But with that noted, the floor is yours.
Yes. Thank you, Mayor Stanton and council members. My name is Nancy Miller. I live at 3205 East Desert Cove, which is just north of this property under discussion. This building is too tall, it's too long, and it's too dense to fit in a suburban, one-story neighborhood. It belongs in the village core, just as the city council has repeatedly recommended over the years, to keep and preserve our beautiful Phoenix neighborhoods, especially ours with the beautiful mountain views. So on the screen you'll see they can move it around and move it out a little. You can see that we've had over 470 people sign, and unlike those who support it, ours are real people. So if some of you would stand up who are opposed to this, we have not paid anybody to be here. okay? Unlike others. Thanks, guys. They're all real. And our neighborhood is very, very willing to work with developers in new stuff. The thing is, I just have a note here from someone. People knew nothing about this. No one in the neighborhood knew this or understood what was going on. And you can imagine when I look out the back of my house, now I'm going to see a wall, an entire wall. I don't think my tomatoes will grow. So, we were very saddened to learn that they had actually paid people at the food bank to come and support a project at various meetings. What a sad way to take care, to recognize poverty. So we have over 13 apartments, right, huge apartments in our village core, nearly all of which have big signs looking for that vacancies are available, offering free rents and free utilities. So we ask that you please do not do irreversible damage to our neighborhood. Do not leave us with an albatross building that probably won't be rented and will forever block our views of the entire community and change the character of our beautiful neighborhood. Thank you, and I'd like to defer to Mary Bankoff.
Thank you very much, Ms. Miller. So, Ms. Bankoff, there are a few of your fellow citizens who have donated time to you, so you certainly have more than the requested 2 minutes. How much time did Ms. Miller use? Total 9 minutes. Okay, good.
That's far
Please.
more than I need. Thank you.
I mean, there are other speakers who would like the opportunity to speak as well. Please.
Good afternoon, Mayor Stanton, members of the council. My name is Mary Bankoff, and I speak in opposition to this project. Citizens have a right to rely on their government officials to protect their neighborhoods. They have a right to depend on a general development plan that is adopted by this council and approved by the voters. They have a right to rely on zoning laws that limit commercial property in this area to 1- and 2-story buildings. They have a right to depend on the stipulation reached by with the neighborhood during the development of the Highway 51 project, which limited the property directly to the north of this proposed project to no more than 10 feet in height. This project is in excess of 50 or 60 feet at this point. This project violates all of those rights of the neighbors. Many neighbors performed their due diligence prior to buying in this area. They looked at the zoning laws, they looked at the general plan, they relied on the stipulation, and now they rely on you to protect them. No studies have recommended high-rise or high-density buildings in this area. The City of Phoenix General Plan, which was updated in 2015, specifically said development should support reasonable levels of increased intensity, respectful of the surrounding neighborhoods. Any development of taller or larger buildings should occur away from single-family and low-rise multifamily housing. The Squaw Peak Freeway specific plan said that this specifically said that this area should retain the Paradise Village core as the commercial office center of the village by discouraging inappropriate increases in land use intensity along the freeway corridor. The North 32nd Street Corridor Report specifically says the City of Phoenix needs to adopt policies that support small-scale multifamily development and catalyze opportunities for its development. And finally, the 32nd Street Corridor Draft Plan specifically stated if more apartments are built in the 32nd Street area, they should not dominate the scenery. Apartments should not obliterate views toward the mountains on the west, east, and south. This project is too tall. It's over 50 or 60 feet in height at this point and over 500 feet long. That's almost 2 football fields. It is too dense. There are 36 dwelling units per acre, which is higher density than any building that is currently in the Paradise Valley Village core.
Few, if any, jobs will be brought to our community as a result of this project. In fact, 6 local businesses are being displaced as a result of this project. Certainly, that would be contrary to economic development. This redevelopment project is not needed to revitalize the area. As you know, there have been several new businesses that have recently opened in that neighborhood. In fact, a major national corporation, Walgreens, is investing in this neighborhood by building a new drugstore right at the corner of 32nd and Shea. So in summary, this monolithic building will severely damage this family neighborhood by eliminating the beautiful mountain views and the open spaces that define this family community. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. How much testimony do we have time left? 3 minutes total? Okay, so Michelle Lombino is next. She has additional cards donating time to her. But you have up to 3 minutes to provide your testimony. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor Stanton and council persons. Ronald Reagan famously said, "Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall." Mr. Gates, I say to you, don't put up this wall. I agree with those who support this project that this is a beautiful neighborhood, that people are very friendly in this neighborhood. I disagree with them that property values have gone down. I moved to the Valley about 20 years ago, and I built my home on Desert Cove Avenue, which is the street closest to this site. It is just north of this site. So I invested in my community. The Squaw Peak Freeway had just opened, and I invested in my community. And I can tell you my property values have not gone down in the 19 years that I have lived here. This structure is out of place in our neighborhood. It really would create a divider between this united family neighborhood. We are a suburban bedroom community. We love the mountains, and these views are not just for those of us who live on Desert Cove Ave. They belong to everyone. These views should not be for sale to the highest bidder to just keep putting up ever higher and higher and higher buildings. All of these studies have recognized that this is the uniqueness of our area. I came here from New York and I thought, what a wonderful city, how unique it is here to have these mountain preserves in the middle of the city. This simply would destroy the character of our neighborhood. What is unique and best about it? What is its best feature? We do want revitalization. We're really happy, Mr. Gates, that you took part in this study of our area for these many years. We're really happy that the city is putting 32nd Street on a road diet and putting bike lanes in. It seems somewhat antithetical, though, to be doing these things that are geared towards the natural environment, narrowing a road and putting in bike lanes, and then saying we want to build taller, and higher. We don't have rapid transit there. There's a park and ride south of Shea, and that park and ride is always empty. I have never seen anyone use this park and ride. So this isn't walkable urban code type property here. In fact, by building this multi-unit dwelling here, you're taking away from the Paradise Valley core. What happens then to Paradise Valley Mall? That's the jewel, the commercial jewel of the area. If you don't continue to build in the core, you're going to deteriorate our core. Quite simply, I ask you to please support our community. Please do redevelopment that serves the needs of all of the community, not just the few that may live south of Shea or in protected enclaves. These views, this community should be unified. You should not, as the Catalyst project in this area, construct a wall to divide us. Thank you very much for your consideration today. Please protect our neighborhood.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lombino, and for taking the time to provide that testimony. Others who are opposed to the proposed project include Mary Rodarte, Daniel Rodarte, Carol Engel, Gigi George, Carol Hewitt, Dennis Nichols, Joyce Nichols, Pat Fry, Michelle West, James Wilson, Robert Bucko, I believe, I apologize, but it'll be submitted for the record, Terry Nelson, additional individuals who had donated their time, also to the various speakers. And then cards that have come in late, but I wanted to make sure are reflected for the record. In favor of the proposal is Joe Berman, Leif Swanson, Reginald Lines, Kate Queller, Joseph Mayers, I think I already said Leif Swanson, Joe Berman, and Chastity Casillas. So those are the cards that I have. Mr. Bull, I did offer the opportunity, if you did want some additional testimony, to reserve. You had 3 minutes of time reserved. Did you want to use that time? Yes. Please, go ahead.
Could we go back to our first slide, please? Mayor, Council, when we get back to the aerial, I think the aerial is obvious that this is a classic infill redevelopment site that abuts a freeway, abuts an arterial street, abuts the backside of the shopping center at the side of the storage facility, and is just up the street from the park and ride lot, and may someday be near to possibly a light rail extension that goes up into this part of the valley. Classic redevelopment site. The city plans that people debate back and forth are discussed in 5 or 6 pages in staff's report. I'm sure staff, or I, if you want, can go through, whether it be the old, what we used to call Squaw Peak Plan, the general plan, the 32nd Street Corridor Policy Plan. There's lots and lots of information in those plans, and underlying it is the need, obvious need, to have entrepreneurial spirits help revitalize this corridor. The process, the zoning process, which is what we go through after plans are adopted, has been very open. You saw the list earlier of an extraordinary number of neighborhood meetings, and an extraordinary number of modifications have been made along the way, including the latest to move the building east and put landscaping in addition to what we had on the west side of the building. The architecture, as you know from the exhibits, is extraordinary. It's a top quality architectural firm who focused on designing a Class A development. A Class A development that we have studies, if you want, is reflective of excellent occupancies and low vacancy rates in this part of the valley and elsewhere. The recommendations for approval that we have are something that I believe were well earned and we're very honored to have. The 640 signatures in support that were submitted are from real people, be it residents and business people in the area, real people who are behind the city's goal and spirit of helping to revitalize the corridor, and this particular application is one step toward those processes. Mayor and Council, we request your approval, as indicated a few minutes ago, subject to staff stipulations and subject to something in your motion or stipulation modifications to allow us to make the adjustments that we talked about to move the building 20 feet east and shift landscaping from the parking lot on the east side of the building over to the west side of the building to widen that setback. If you have questions, we'll try to answer them. Otherwise, we thank you and everyone involved in the process, both in support and opposition, for their openness throughout this lengthy process. I thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Bull. Does any member of this council have questions for either the representative of the applicant or those who testified in opposition to the item? Councilman Gates?
Thank you, Mayor. A few questions, Mr. Bull. You referenced the supporters and you showed the stack. Can you indicate to us, do you have a map that shows exactly where those supporters live?
Yes. This map, which is lacking probably 20 of the statements in support because it was planned prior to the Planning Commission hearing, identifies the site here. The green pins identify signatures in the area. If we flip to this side, it's a more regional look at it, but they are people just like there's opposition in the area, there are real people in the area who are very much in support.
And there was an allegation made that people have been paid to attend hearings. Is that true?
No. I mean, I've never heard that before, and my client has never heard that before, not aware of it. No.
And there was also an allegation that you went into a food bank or something like that looking for supporters. Is that true?
I have never heard that until today either, and I'm looking for, Eve? May I step away for a moment?
Kit, if you step away from the mic, folks who are watching at home, and I'm sure there are many, won't be able to hear you.
Could we come back to that in about 15 seconds when I want to visit with Eve Nunez to...
You have any additional questions, Councilman Gates, and we'll come back to that one?
I do not have any further questions for Mr. Bull at this time.
Okay.
Then if I may, I'm sorry, Mayor.
But you were going to answer that question previously.
I'll
You had
get
someone
you an
coming.
answer.
Okay.
Mayor and Council, you may have seen me speaking with Eve Nunez. Some of you may or may not know her. Eve Nunez is the one who is kind of the coordinator over people who were knocking on doors. She has no knowledge of anyone on behalf of the support for this application going into a food bank to gather people to come and appear in support or speak in support, nor do I, nor does my client.
All right, thank you very much. Councilman or anyone else, do you have any questions again for the applicant's representative and/or individuals who spoke opposed to the proposal? Councilman Nowakowski?
Mayor, just some clarification. So on the north side of the proposed building, can we go back to the picture of the facility itself? So what's the nearest neighborhood or on the north side of the building, and what is on the north side of the building?
Mayor, Councilmember
Or the proposed apartment complex, I'm sorry.
Okay. Mayor, Councilmember Nowakowski, as you're looking at that aerial with the arrow pointing to the subject site, the site's outlined in red. The gray-looking buildings immediately north of us is a storage facility, an existing storage facility. About 280 feet approximately north of our north property line is the rear property of dual occupancy homes that are in the row of homes along the north side of the storage facility.
How high is that storage facility? Is it a single story or?
The storage facility is zoned C2 with a special permit for storage. I'm sure staff will correct me if my memory's incorrect. I believe C2 for storage, I know allows 2 stories up to 24 feet, I believe. Whereas if that special permit were lifted, C2 permits as of right 2 stories, 30 feet in building height.
And what's on the south side of the proposed apartment complex?
The south side, which is down here, is a Bash's anchored shopping center.
And that
So-
goes right up to Shea Boulevard, right?
Yes, that shopping center orients west toward 32nd Street and south toward Shea. We're on the back side of that shopping center.
And that's the west side where 32nd Street is?
32nd, this is 32nd Street, north is up, so this is all commercial development on the west side of 32nd Street.
And on the east side is the actual freeway, right? Is that the 51?
On the east side, immediately east of our east property line, as a part of the 51, is a drainage corridor that occurs along here before you get to the travel lanes, from our east property line through the drainage corridor, through the 51 and the on-ramp and off-ramps is approximately 535 feet. And there's a row of dual occupancy homes here that are similar to the dual occupancy homes along the north side of the storage facility.
So just for my clarification, I've never been on the property. So basically, surrounding that piece of property, you have a buffer of a storage facility, a freeway on one side. It looks like a retail, the Bash's Retail Center, and on 32nd Street. What's on the other side of 32nd Street? Is that some type of a business or?
Here?
Right.
This is a retail shop. All of this is retail shopping in this area on the west side of 32nd.
So you'd be surrounded by retail, freeway, and a warehouse, right?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. How close are you to the mountain?
As you drive south on 32nd Street, going straight south, because the mountain down further south kind of goes on an angle, but going straight south to the toe of the slope of the mountain is approximately 1.5 miles. And I say that because 32nd Street terminates about 1.25 miles, 1.3 miles, as I recall, south of this street. And then it's a meaningful difference from the termination of 32nd Street until you get the toe of the slope of that particular mountain.
Thank you. And then I just have some questions for staff, or should I?
All right, thank you very much. I do want to give the opportunity. I think when Mr. Bull was speaking, there was some concern about whether it was a correct statement relative to the allowable height of the building immediately north of the proposed project. Mr. Stevens, I don't know if you have a chance to provide clarification on that.
Correct, Mayor, members of council. The base special permit zoning district for a mini storage facility does allow 2 stories, 24 feet, as Mr. Bull stated. However, in this case, when the zoning was approved for the mini storage, there was a stipulation that limits it to 10 feet of building height.
So it's stipulated to the height that's
Stipulated
there.
to 10, but the district does allow 24 if the stipulation wasn't there.
All right, thank you. Councilman Noakowski has some additional questions for our staff.
And then the outreach. Did we do any outreach, or what type of outreach did we, as a city or village, actually reach out to the community?
So Mayor, Councilman Noakowski, in a zoning case that is privately filed by an applicant, the applicant is responsible for doing the outreach associated with that. In this particular case, they have to notify all the property owners within 600 feet. The neighborhood associations registered with the city within 1 mile. They did have at least two neighborhood meetings, and I think Mr. Bull can tell you more of what they did. But then they went to the Paradise Valley Village Planning Committee, Planning Commission, and ultimately here at City Council.
And how far back was that?
That has been over the last several months since they filed their application. Prior to that, there were a number of meetings that the city conducted when we were doing the 32nd Street corridor study as part of developing that study and working with the Urban Land Institute on the study they did prior to that about revitalizing this corridor.
And can you talk about the outreach that you all have done?
Yes, sir. Could we advance 3 slides, I believe it is, to a heading that says area neighborhood and public meetings? This is the first of the 2 outside outreach slides that I had on the screen earlier. The first official neighborhood meeting, which provided invitations to the folks that staff indicated as far as 600-foot neighbors and registered associations within 1 mile. 93 notices were sent to that meeting, and it was held on February 3rd. We went to the village committee for what's called introduction. A number of neighbors, many of which are here today, participated on March 2nd. And it wasn't 2018, it was 2015 for that village introduction meeting. We had our second official neighborhood meeting on March 16th because we take not only our original 93 notices, but add to that list anyone and everyone who signs in at a neighborhood meeting or that reaches out to us or signs in at a village meeting. To that second neighborhood meeting, we sent 149 notifications. Then we went to the village committee on May 4th. Again, a lot of people participated, both in support and in opposition. For our third official neighborhood meeting, which was on May 27th, again, adding notification to anybody who signed in adds to our notification list. We sent out 219 notifications. If we go to the next slide, please, I'll touch on this quickly. In addition to those, what I'll call official larger neighborhood meetings and village meetings and the Planning Commission hearing, door-to-door outreach began in January. We also had a meeting with Desert Cove neighbors, many of which who are here today, some of whom went and met with our architect and kind of toured portions of the valley with our architect. We did a balloon study on February 14th, did everything we could to let Desert Cove neighbors and others know, some of which participated. We had another follow-up meeting with Desert Cove neighbors to update them on, or discuss with them some updated exhibits on February 18th, and then did a second balloon test, so to speak, where we had an engineer set the corners of where the balloons would be flown from and how high they would be flown. And at that time, again, it was a combination 4- and 5-story building, which it is no longer. So that, in addition to a variety of phone calls and emails and other communications, was an extensive neighborhood outreach effort to keep the process open and ongoing.
My final comment, Mayor, would be I just really want to thank my colleague Bill Gates for this whole process, and I know how hard it is to revitalize an area. I mean, my colleague, Councilmember Gallegos, and myself are really working on the banks of the river in South Phoenix, and that whole process of revitalizing South Phoenix and the banks of the river, and it's a tough job. I mean, there's individuals that are opposed, there's people that are supportive, and then once you sit people together and you try to find that common ground, it's just tough. And I just really want to thank you all for coming out. Back in May 19th, I started receiving letters opposing this project. And as you can see, there's quite a few letters. And then probably about 3 weeks ago or so, we started receiving, and I'm not sure if all my colleagues have received the same amount of emails of support. And you have businesses, and I don't want anyone to
Please
clap
keep
or
the decorum.
anything,
Yeah, please keep
but
the decorum.
it shows that people are engaged. As I was listening to individuals out there saying that there wasn't an opportunity, people that were opposed were actually emailing me back at May 19th. So I know that you were engaged, at least with our office, and we basically referred you back to the council member of that district. And Bill, I just really want to thank you for your leadership in trying to revitalize this area. I know this is a tough case, and it's hard to make everyone happy, but at the same time, as you look, I'm looking at all 4 sides as basically either retail, or you have a freeway that buffers a neighborhood, and then on the other side you have storage. So it's really hard to support, or not to support, a great development like this when you have all the support letters of businesses and community leaders and individuals that live in that community. So I'll be supporting my colleague Bill Gates on this one.
All right, thank you. So right now, there are no additional cards. We've had testimony, obviously, from and people in support, people opposed. Are there any additional questions from members of this council, again, for either the applicant's representative or those who spoke in opposition to the project? Councilwoman Pastor?
I have several questions, Alan, because there were several statements made, and so I want to get some clarity on it.
Please.
It's regarding the general plan of that area. In the general plan, the new general plan, what is stipulated for the 32nd Street area or corridor? I understand we have the general plan, then we have the 32nd Street corridor plan, and other items for that area. So I just want to understand
Mayor,
what is needed.
Certainly, thank you. Mayor, Councilwoman Pastor, the general plan designation for this parcel is commercial. Our commercial designation does allow for multifamily development as part of that. The North 32nd Street corridor plan does not designate desired future land uses. It just talks about areas of change, areas of stability, and areas for retrofit. And so this was marked in that study as an area of change to look at based upon a subsequent zoning case coming in. The specific plan for the State Route 51 freeway does have language in there that talks about the land north of the Bashas Shopping Center being suitable for multifamily development, which is the subject site that we're talking about. So there is language in that specific plan too about multifamily being suitable for this parcel. In regards to the new general plan that council approved back in March of this year, as this process unfolds for that new general plan, once the election is over in August, we will be working with all the various village planning committees to take the larger goals that council approved in that policy document and come up with village character plans that will reflect how the villages and the community in those areas desire and value all of the larger goals across the city for their specific village area. And so at this time, that document doesn't have any more significant guidance related to this particular part of the city.
Okay, and then can you go back to the storage? Is the storage, what's the height of the storage?
So the height of the storage is stipulated at 10 feet pursuant to the zoning case that allowed for the special permit, which is what you need in C2 to do mini storage. The district does allow for 24 feet of building height, but when you, as you know, when you have a zoning case, the council can stipulate less. So in this case, it was stipulated to less. So it is a one-story mini storage facility, even though the district would allow 2 stories and 24 feet.
Okay. And then there was a statement made regarding, I'm looking at my notes, regarding the food bank and paid, people that were paid to sign the petition. Can I get some clarity on that? Is there?
All right, redirecting the question to Ms. Miller, who is the one that made the statement. Ms. Miller, I don't know if you wanted to provide, obviously, Councilman Gates had asked the applicant about that, and the applicant denies that is accurate. Ms. Miller, if you want to provide whatever additional information you have as to whether or not there were paid individuals from the food bank who were paid to appear at various public hearings, please.
Yes, thank you, Pastor, Councilwoman Pastor. The petitions that we have gotten from neighbors, and to our chagrin, none of the petitioners' applicants have ever been put in the public record, so we have absolutely no way of knowing who they are. Mr. Rodarty and his wife were at for the Planning Commission. They stopped at McDonald's in our neighborhood to get lunch, and there were a large group of people, and someone was buying them dinner and then bussed them down here, and I recognized people from the food bank that were there, and we have heard that they were paid, and we've heard this information from several different people. I went to the food bank, and I was embarrassed to ask them. I thought it was humiliating to ask people, did you have to take money to just come down and sit at a public meeting and pretend that you supported something that you know nothing about? And so that's what we know. Thank you. But we would ask that since Councilman Nowakowski did refer to those documents, and Mr. Bull has referred to them several times, we would like to see those placed in the public record, because we do have testimony from some neighbors that they were deliberately misled, and we have signed documents from them that they were told this was a 2-story building, it was very small. Another neighbor was told it was on the corner of Shea. And people, it was misrepresented by paid solicitors in our neighborhood for months at a time. I was standing when one solicitor came for the 3rd time to a neighbor, and he had written down very clearly on his document that this neighbor, that Mrs. Tahey, I believe is here, that she does not care. What Mrs. Tahey had noted in my presence was that she did not care for paid solicitors to come to her home and bother her again.
Thank you much, Ms. Miller.
Also, the petitions, if I may add, sir, say nothing about the height or density of this building. They only say, I'm in favor of development. Yes, I'm sure 500 people would also say they're in favor of apple pie. Thank you.
So in terms of the entry of those, the pile there into the public record, I assume it's the intent of the applicant that actually does occur. I want to make sure, Mr. Bull, you have a chance to answer that question about what is the pile of support letters that have been sent to the mayor and council. What's your intent relative to the public record on that, Mr. Bull?
Yes. And unfortunately, we can't document that now.
I appreciate that. Mr. Bull, I don't have a chance to answer that question.
Thank you, Mayor. The same statements in support that were delivered to the mayor and council were that same day delivered to the planning department, so they are a part of public information. I'm out of order unless you ask me a question about picking up people at McDonald's, but I would like to answer that if somebody would be inclined.
Well, the question, I really wanted, since that was the original question that Councilwoman Pastor had asked, additional testimony was provided on the issue about the public, whether those documents are public record, and I appreciate your clarification that those are now part of the public record, and people on either side of this issue will have the opportunity to see who signed on either side, yes or no. So I appreciate that. Councilman Pastor, did you have your questions answered relative to the allegation relative to payment of individuals to appear at a public hearing on this matter?
Yes.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Bull. All right, any additional questions by members of this council on this proposal? Okay, with that, I'm going to now, we have no motion to take. I'm going to close the public hearing unless you have additional questions. Councilman Gates, please.
Question
Go
for
ahead.
staff. Alan, can you speak about what the current zoning is specifically on this property and, what parcels it's made up of, et cetera?
Certainly, Mayor, Councilman Gates. This map here is the zoning for it. So you see in the front of the parcel, the entire parcel was originally zoned CO, and then there was a C1 zoning case that came in the front area for approved C1, and then approved C2 in the back portion of the parcel here as well. However, none of that has been built on. And so somebody could build under the CO zoning or the C2 zoning in the back of that parcel.
And Mayor, Mr. Stevenson, what's the height that's allowed in that CO?
So, Mayor, Councilman Gates, the CO zoning district, because it's an old CO zoning district, does allow for 4 stories of building height because it was approved prior to 1991 for that parcel. However, there is the approved C2 zoning that goes over the top of it, but a property owner could use either one of those zoning districts at this time.
So just to make clear, then you said someone could build 4 stories under the current
Yes,
zoning?
Councilman Gates, yes.
I don't have any other.
Thank you. Right. Councilwoman Pastor, did you have additional questions?
Yes, Alan, I can't see you. So, questions are on height. The original plans were at 5 stories?
Mayor, Councilwoman Pastor, that's correct.
And so
The-
my
The
understanding.
back portion was 5 stories,
Okay,
yes.
so my understanding it's 4 stories across.
Correct, yes.
Okay, and that I don't know what they called it, it wasn't a patio, it was, I don't know if it was on the second story where it would go all the way around. My understanding that's been removed.
Mayor, Councilman Pastor, that is correct. They did have some outdoor decks that were on that second story that were open space amenities meant for the residents that faced the north of, on the property.
I think it was referred to me as a party something, party balcony or something. So it has been removed.
That's correct.
And then the new stipulations that have been given, it's making, it's giving more walkable area. The new one that I just got right now, actually I have several. The new stipulations with the landscape.
Yes, Mayor, Councilwoman Pastor, the add-on memo that came out yesterday drops the height, and as part of that, it does keep the building close to 32nd Street to kind of create that walkable environment. However, with the applicant's proposed changes to slide the building back, they are still keeping landscaping up there to keep that walkable instead of adding parking up front.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions, Councilwoman? Okay, any additional questions from other members of this council? I have not yet closed the public hearing, so now would be the appropriate time to close the public hearing on this. Sir, did you raise your hand? Did you have something you wanted to add or say? I apologize. I want to make sure we get as.
I just wanted to say.
Well, you got to come to the microphone, and I appreciate it. Please state your name for the record, and I don't know if I maybe I do.
My
have a
name
card
is
here.
Dan Rodarty. I'm a local IBEW member. I have lived in this area for the last 20 years, and I'm just saying right now that that area right there, there is nothing in our area that is over 2 stories in height, okay? And when you get north of that building, it starts all of the residential area. When I walk out of my home right now, I can see the mountainscape. I can see this clearly, and it's good. When I walk out of my door, once this building is built, that's all I'm going to see.
I think what is your address for the record? So we have it?
3250 East Choya Street, not Avenue.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it very much. Thanks for taking time to come down. Okay, I apologize in that the councilman for the area tried to work with both sides of this issue and limit the time for testimony to try to be as fair as possible. Sir, I'm going to leave it to your discretion. Do you have new information to provide this council relative to your support or opposition to this proposal?
I think I do, yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
All right, I'm going to give you 30 seconds to provide whatever new information, and I'm going to trust that that is accurate.
Mayor, council members, thank you very much for the time. I'll be very brief. I've lived in this area for...
What's your name and address
My
for the
name is
record?
William Dacier. I live at 2856 East Cochise, approximately a half a mile or so from this location. Within a quarter mile in any direction of the intersection of 32nd Street and Shea Boulevard, right now there are 27 vacant commercial spaces within a quarter mile of that intersection. We need this development. We need the demographics to be younger.
Thank you.
We need this kind of density to come into
Appreciate
the
it, yeah.
neighborhood.
I think that point
Thank
was
you.
well made earlier. I apologize, but that is not new information. All right, I see other hands. Do people have new information you'd like to provide? Because I think we had an agreement, and if you'd like to go beyond that agreement, I'm going to leave it to the councilman. What would you like to do, Councilman?
Mayor, I think that, again, it was, you know, we have a lot of supporters who have come in here of late, so, I mean, if my colleagues want to be here for a couple more hours, we can do that, but the reality is, I think
I think both sides have been well represented.
Both sides have
I mean-
done an excellent job of presenting their views on this, and like I said, there have been a lot of other hearings, et cetera, so if my colleagues have specific questions, but I think that the agreement, we should stick to the agreement, Mayor.
All right, thank you very much, Councilmember. So I think people had submitted cards, and your reflection either in favor or oppose has been reflected for the record. And I think both sides did an outstanding job. Of course, you have to pick leaders, and there were some leaders that made some outstanding points, and people had reserved time, but I have not heard new information. I think at this point we're repeating a lot of existing information. Okay, I'm deferring to, I'm deferring to the councilman for the area and say that an agreement was made as to time on both sides, and we're gonna stick to that agreement from this point moving forward. So with that, I'm going to close the public hearing and turn it over to the councilman representing the area to see if he has a motion he would like to put on the table.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make a few remarks before we put a motion on the table. I just want to say that I'm very proud to represent the North 32nd Corridor, and I think the reason for that pride has been shown again this afternoon by people on both sides of this issue, the passion they have for this particular project and the passion they have for the revitalization effort in general. When I came on the council in 2009, I was approached by people in the area who were concerned about what had happened to the area. We heard people speak about that, about the fact that there used to be significant traffic along North 32nd, very vibrant retail, etc. And when the 51 went in, it was the classic situation of the kind of bypass being built, and a lot of traffic went off of North 32nd, and as a result, we have some of the highest retail vacancy rates in the city. And so this effort was begun, and over 40 meetings have been held on this issue over the past few years. And my colleague Jim Waring, who also represents the North 32nd Corridor, has been involved in that. The Urban Land Institute has assembled a group of experts, development experts. They looked at this area and came forth with recommendations. We had ASU grad students who looked at this area as well. And there's no question that residents want improvements to the area. That's one of the reasons that we have the road diet that's going on right now that's adding bike lanes to North 32nd. And we have seen new businesses come to the area, in part because of the residents who have spoken and said that they're interested in new businesses being in the area. And, you know, that's exciting, and I know people in the corridor are excited about that. But there was a statement made that the area is run down. Respectfully, I don't agree with that. I think it's a vibrant area, but I think that this effort is about trying to make sure that it doesn't go significantly downhill, stepping up before it reaches that point. There have been some concerns about, you know, a precedent being set that if this project is approved, that we're going to see, high-rise up and down North 32nd. I can tell you that I don't support that. If this project were directly adjacent to a residential area, I would not support it. But as was described, this is surrounded on all four sides, either by North 32nd, the 51, the mini storage on the north, and the Bashas Center on the south. So I don't see this as a precedent that will run up and down the corridor. You heard a lot about notice being provided to the neighborhood. In addition, we have a list of about 350 folks that we have emails for that we've assembled and gathered during this revitalization effort, and we kept the neighborhood abreast as this case moved forward. Additionally, I have to tell you, this is the most vibrant zoning case I've ever seen on social media. Both sides have done a great job on Facebook of letting people know what's going on. Nextdoor.com has been very active as well with discussion of this case. I told folks as soon as they came to me about this that I was going to respect the process, because I do respect the citizen-driven process that we have for rezoning, and that started with the Village Planning Committee, and this case was approved by a 10-3 vote at the Village Planning Committee, and then it went to the Planning Commission, where it was approved at a 5-0 vote. But despite that strong support for this project, I know that there are real concerns about this project, and that's why I met with the opponents and heard their concerns as it relates to the height of this project, as it relates to the size, and also how close it was to North 32nd. And so I then went back to the applicant and told them that changes needed to be made, and those changes have been made to the project. It has been reduced to 4 stories. The width of the project has been decreased as well, in addition to the setbacks. So this project will now be farther off of North 32nd due to those concerns that have been raised by residents. Now, earlier we had the opponents to this stand. Could I ask the supporters to please stand at this time? And then can I ask the opponents to stand as well? And the supporters keep standing. Look around this room. Everyone here that's standing is committed to the revitalization of North 32nd. Think about what we can all get accomplished if we work together. So thank you very much. You may be seated. With that, Mayor, I would make a motion to approve per the add-on memo dated June 30th, 2015, and adopt ordinance G-6048.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second to that motion?
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Any members of the council would like to comment on the proposed motion? Councilwoman Williams, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I would just like to thank everybody. I have received numerous emails every single day, both pro and con, and I commend you because you have really done an outstanding job of having community meetings and trying to get people together, because this is an area that deserves to be revitalized. It has unlimited potential and it has great neighborhood people in it. I just want to thank you for all the hard work you put in it and continue to put in it, and to all the people that have participated so far. It's one of those situations where somebody has to hear no. And I know as a council person, that's one of the most difficult things that you have to do in this job. You try to balance it as best you can, but there is a certain line where you just have to say, this project is worthy, it meets our goals, and we have to go forward with it. So I am supporting your motion.
All right, thank you very much, Councilwoman, for those comments. Other members of the council, any comments? Al
Mayor-
Stevenson, did you have something to add in terms
Mayor,
of make sure the
members
motion
of
was
council,
proper?
If you'll recall, during Mr. Bull's presentation, he talked about an agreement that had been reached with some of the neighbors to move the building back 20 feet by shifting some of the landscaping on the east side of the property to the west side adjacent to 32nd Street, and creating more landscape open space along 32nd Street. So my question is to Councilman Gates, if that is also part of his intent in this motion.
Yes, it is. And Mayor, Mr. Stevenson, do you need me to read that motion?
Mayor, I would just note for the record that the revised stipulations would be to page 8, section G, and that would be stipulation I to change, add language that says in the rear building and landscape setback from 10 feet to 5 feet, and reducing that landscape, or increasing the landscape setback along 32nd Street to 55 feet, as already written in that stipulation. And then in stipulations P, Q, S, T, and U, we would add the following 1, 2, and 3 stipulations that would modify the PUD narrative. And so that number 1 would be to increase the building and landscape setback along 32nd Street an additional 20 feet for a total of 55 feet, including the 25-foot easement area. Number 2, remove and decrease the landscape planter along the east side of the building. And number 3 would be decrease the rear landscape setback from 10 feet to 5 feet. And with that, we would also then want to modify stipulation T, and that would be to revise that same stipulation from 35 to 55 feet, similar language. And then stipulation U would have that same language, 1, 2, and 3, about increasing the setback and decreasing the planter on the east side, as well as the rear setback from 10 feet to 5 feet that I previously read in the record. It's exactly the same language.
All right, so the intent, I think, of the maker of the motion is to include the additional stipulations necessary to effectuate the increased setback for the site. I assume that's the case?
That's
Okay.
correct, Mayor.
And I assume that for the seconder of the motion, that would also be the case? Okay, any additional comments or questions by members of this council? Councilman Gates, I too have met with both sides. It's a very, very difficult case, and strong arguments have been made on on both sides as it relates to the substance of the case. I know you are passionate and have been from day one, both publicly and privately, with regard to the revitalization of 32nd Street, and are committed from this day forward to make sure that that project is a success. And I know that it's your belief that this particular proposal does fit within that vision, and I'm going to support your judgment with regard to this project in your district along 32nd Street, an area of particular passion, and do appreciate your leadership. This is a difficult case. You are someone that takes arguments on both sides very, very seriously. I know it's of your judgment that this is the right thing for 32nd Street in District 3, and I am going to respect that and support you on this case. Any additional comments by members of this council? This is a three-quarter vote case, so it would be necessary to have at least seven votes of this council for this to successfully pass. Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski. Pastor.
What I like to say is I met with both parties. This is a difficult case. I do believe that both parties met. There were different decisions. Height was lowered. Pieces of the development was changed. And so my vote is a yes.
Councilman DeCiccio, are you on the phone now? Councilman DeCiccio?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I don't know if you could hear me or not.
We cannot. So did you want to vote on this?
Pardon me?
Did you want to make a statement or vote on the item? Councilman Gates?
Just a quick statement. Yeah, I've been trying
Please.
to, but I think there must have been a bad connection.
No problem.
And I'll be very brief. I just want to thank Councilman Gates. I know how difficult these things are, Bill, and you have to be commended for all the work you did on this. I mean, I cannot believe how many calls we received, how many emails we received, and how many communications we received in our office on both sides. Likewise, you have to commend the individuals that are there today. We had a similar, and the reason I wanted to say something is because I had a similar case like this on 16th Street in Bethany years ago. We went from one of the most vibrant areas in the city, which I grew up here in Phoenix. 32nd Street was one of those areas. And the one gentleman that talked earlier, then it started going to a period of decline, just like any other area would. But we did the same thing on 16th and Bethany, and it was a challenge. People found it difficult to make any changes. But those changes now brought in one of the best economic areas in the entire city of Phoenix. So the work you put into this bill, you need to be commended. It's going to be hard. All these changes are going to be difficult. But in the long run, it's going to be the best thing for the city, for that community, and for your district.
Councilman, what's your vote?
Yes.
All right. Continue, Mr. City Clerk.
Waring. Williams. Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, the motion passes unanimously. Thank everyone for coming on this item. Please maintain your decorum. Councilman Williams, we realize that on item 147, we needed to.
Was it 147 or 1?
We wanted to for 147 and 8.
47?
Is it 147 or 8? I'm sorry, I got a little.
147.
147, which is the general plan item. We wanted to clarify that you wanted to approve as, quote, corrected, unquote. Was that your intent?
A motion to approve as amended plus any.
Do we need another motion or just clarification that was her intent?
Just clarification.
Was it your intent to approve it, quote, as corrected, unquote?
It was my intent, Mayor.
That is
City Attorney, is that satisfactory?
That's satisfactory.
All right. There be no other business before the City Council. I know there is one gentleman here to speak for citizen comment, but officially this meeting is adjourned. Do we have citizen requests? Dee Dee Barker, did you wish to provide testimony on citizen request? Up to 3 minutes. Mr. Johnson, you should provide up to 3 minutes for citizen request. Good to see you.
Mayor, council people,